What day is this?
It's Mail It In Friday.
Yeah, well, the dude abides.
This is OverDrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog on TSN 1050.
All right, here we go. OverDrive off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker. Up on TSN 2, Brian Hayes, Dave Feschuk of the Toronto Star. How we doing, Dave?
Would have paid to be in Detroit last night.
That would have been a lot of fun to be in Detroit last night.
I probably wouldn't have paid, actually. I don't pay to get in.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd pay either. And I don't know if I'd really want to drive down to Detroit, but...
no, terrible drive. Hate the drive.
I'm not a big fan of that drive. Like, because you get to London, and you're like, I still got to go a long way. It's kind of like the opposite way you get to Kingston if you're going to Montreal, and you're like, we still have a ways here to get to Montreal. But once you're there, it's all good, right? As long as you're not doing the drive, and if you are, so be it. A lot of Blue Jay fans down there, and you're right. Beautiful weather. It wasn't great here. It was kind of crazy storming through Toronto last night. But, man, the Jays they are so red hot. And, like, just reading some stuff from out of Detroit last night, like, the Tigers are in one right now.
Oh, yeah.
They were struggling kind of going into the break and struggling kind of coming out of it. But we mentioned it yesterday. They got a chance to have the best record in the American League, and that's currently where they stand. And they earned it last night.
Big time, man. First time they've been leading the American League this late in the season since 2015.
2015.
And you know what happened in 2015?
They went all the way to the ALCS.
Right.
They went all the way to the ALCS. And they started making big trades right around this time.
Yes,
big trades. And that's, the view of the lens that I was kind of watching it through last night, because we were talking about, who on the current team could have some value that could go the other way. And, we referenced Barger, and naturally people were not happy with us. I'm sure you were getting messages. I was last night. Like, can you shut up, please? You're such an idiot. Why would you bring him up? And sure enough, like, he's kind of the catalyst to the back-to-back home runs, where they were talking about it during the telecast. Like, are they going to walk Barger here or not? And then Hinch throws up the 4, goes, just give him the base. And then all of a sudden, Ernie Clement makes him pay. And then Lou Perfido hit an absolute bomb the next at bat. And, Will Wagner's contributing, like we mentioned.
Game.
He looked great last night. Eric Lauer. I mean, this guy looks like David Price. Like, he looks and pitches in terms of production like David Price. And I thought they'd give him the 9th last night. And, Chad Green is just simply never going to pitch in high leverage ever. No. He's given up more home runs than any reliever in baseball this year. He comes in, gives up a home run, and then they kind of do the Savannah Bananas in center field in the 9th. And I'm like, is he really going to make this interesting? He didn't, to his credit. But I would have liked to see Lauer go 9 last night.
Would have been cool.
Yeah, give him, let him. I get he was up pushing towards 100 pitches. Why not? Give him a complete game.
It's such a shame that we can't see that anymore.
It's like there's no pushback or anything. And I'm not trying to rain on the parade of how great the game was last night. It was amazing. But and I guess this is old guy yelling at the clouds, but 20 years ago, of course you go out there.
It's
like naturally,
goes without saying.
Like it goes without saying. Like, of course, go out there. That'd be great. That'd be great for a complete game. You're a guy who's found it. He's basically Eric Lauer is this year's Bowden Francis.
Yeah,
like that's what he is. Like that's what he's doing. And Francis did it in August and September. Lauer has been doing it since May. But his numbers are unbelievable. And you look at the Jays on both sides of it. They never strike out. They're racking up Ks on the mound. Like, they're leading the league. I believe the majors, not only the American League, in both categories, certainly post All-Star break. But over the last month and a half, these guys, they do not strike out. They're racking up Ks. It's just a recipe for blowouts. And that's what we saw last night.
And they do not strike out. They're racking up Ks. And just when you wanted to nitpick these guys and say, well, the power numbers could be better, bang, another 3-home-run game.
Right.
That's the 6th 3-home-run game of the month of July. Like, these guys are just suddenly the one thing everybody was on them about, don't hit a lot of home runs. Yeah, a lot of other good things happening. They're hitting a lot of home runs.
They're hitting a lot of home runs and, like, really clutch hits. And, they're hitting for power. They're slugging. Like, they're the hottest team in the league. and it's really not particularly close.
No.
Also, when you look at the statistics, like it's not the schedule that they're up against. They played the Giants, the Yankees, the Tigers coming out of the break.
Exactly.
Like this is not them going through, the White Sox and then Colorado and then saying, the Athletics are rolling into town.
Yeah, the only setback they had was against the Athletics.
Yeah, that's right.
They lost the series.
They lost 2 out of 3,
Yeah.
and they lost the last game in Chicago against the White Sox.
Exactly.
You're right. They actually played. They seem to play up to their competition,
Which is a nice thing to do.
which is a very good thing to have.
But you look at it, you're right. Like we were talking about run differential. They're plus 42 in July in 19 games. Like
Yeah.
suddenly the run differential is looking a lot better.
Yeah. What does Michael K have to say about that?
There you go.
Where are you at, Michael K?
I mean, they were a minus 31 in April, right? And the team that was like, what did they have? They were 29th in home runs in April, in the month of April. This month they're tied for 7th. Like they're one of the better power hitting teams in baseball in July. And who knows if it's going to last? I mean, and they're doing it without Vladdy really breaking out, right? At all. So who knows if it's going to last? But you're right. You talk about a sign of respect and a tribute to the season Addison Barger is having. That they're the best team in the American League until very recently.
Yep.
Is intentionally walking a guy who did not make the club out of spring training.
Right.
Think about that.
Yeah. Don't want this guy to burn us. Wouldn't want him to break the game open. And then Ernie Clement goes, all right, have you heard of me?
Yeah.
3-run shot, game over.
How about that little bat flip Ernie had?
Because apparently he was using Bo Bichette's bat last night, or that's what he was telling the media post-game. Because prior to, I would say, the final game of the Yankees series, like Clement had been struggling, and Schneider had referenced that, and like he had been leading off a lot, and they had to push him back because he was kind of in one. And, he had that big RBI single against the Yankees, and then he had the kind of fluky triple where Bellinger lost the ball in the lights, and then all of a sudden he's back. Goes down game 1 of this series against the Tigers, and he was unreal last night.
That was great.
And that is really a testament to how everything is coming up Blue Jays, and everything is hitting on all cylinders when Vladdy and Bichette and Springer are all contributing and they're all playing well. But again, it was Eric Lauer and Ernie Clement and Joey Luperfido and Will Wagner.
Think about that. Like Luperfido and Wagner were in the minors.
Yeah, that's right.
I saw him playing AAA a little while ago.
Yeah.
Like they were just, and yet here they come, and they didn't pout. They didn't hang their heads. They waited for their opportunity, and they're both seizing it.
Yeah, and they pounced. And Lauer, with that lip last night, was wild. Like, what? Well, no one knows. Like, he had the great answer afterwards where I believe he was being sarcastic about Max Scherzer, and you're not supposed to talk to him on game days, and he made that mistake, and indicating that Scherzer laid a beating on him or something, which I don't believe that happened.
I don't think that was real.
I think he's joking, which is great because he actually landed it beautifully. Like, the deadpan was actually outstanding.
Yes.
Like, Eric Lauer may have a future in comedy or in Hollywood or something like that. Maybe get into Happy Gilmore 3. I don't know. You can find a role in that.
Have you binged Happy Gilmore 2 yet?
I have not seen it. I've seen clips now that have been released, and they look horrendous, which I understand is a dangerous game. And I also think this is something that I can use. I can say from my own perspective that is killing the movie industry is that they don't have, once it's out there, they don't have control of what you can find online.
Yeah.
Like, remember the magic of Hollywood for the longest time was the tease, and was like you'd go to the movies and you'd see previews, and it would be the story within the story, and they'd show maybe the funniest joke if it's a comedy, and you'd be like, man, that might work, or the most incredible action scene in an action movie, and it would rope you in, and that's all you had. You had the minute or whatever it was in the theater when you were there watching another movie, and you said, well, when that comes out, I got to go see it. And then sure, there would be, there'd be critics or whatever, but I don't know how many people are really paying attention to it or going to be swayed one way or the other. But now, especially with streaming stuff where people can just get it, rip it off, and put it online. Like, I saw a couple of clips today. The one in particular of like Eminem's role in this, it is so bad. If that's actually in it, like, that's so awful and cringy and bad. So, and I can't imagine that scene would be in the original preview because I never saw it. Like, I didn't see it in the original one.
No, I wasn't even aware he was in it.
Yeah, me neither until last night, and then I saw that clip this morning. I'm like, I don't know, man. It doesn't take much for me, like with a movie, to be like, I don't think I can invest 2 hours. Like I see one thing that's like cringy or awful. I'm like, I think I'm out. I got two. There's, Jays are playing every night. There's different sports going on. Like to commit to a movie anyway can be a bit of a challenge for me.
Well, we were saying it yesterday that the amount of cameos that they were stacking up for this Happy Gilmore 2 could have been a red flag.
Yes.
Like, how many celebrities do you need? How many PGA Tour players do you require to make this thing watchable or to get people to watch it? Because maybe you just don't have a story there. Maybe there's a reason you haven't made a Happy Gilmore sequel for most of 3 decades.
That is a concern. Yeah, that was the concern. And now, again, I'm sure I'll check it out at some point out of nostalgia. I'll watch out of nostalgia because, again, I'm a Sandler fan. I love Happy Gilmore. The originals, it's a great, great movie. Earlier in the week, we were talking about like how you would rank your 5 favorite sports movies, and I think I'd have Happy Gilmore in my top 5. I think I would. Yeah. I think I'd have Major League. I'd have Happy Gilmore. I lean more towards sports comedies than like the more serious stuff, but I'd have to have a couple of serious ones in there. I'd have to think more on that. But, yeah, I'll check it out at some point. But, again, with the Jays playing, like, this is the beauty of it. They're 61-42. They had 15 hits last night. They went 11-4. And you just can't wait to roll it over and see what kind of lineup card's coming out tonight. I'm sure it's out. If it's not, it's coming out soon. We'll take a look. But Lucas hit a home run last night. Clement, Lou Perfito hit a home run. Lauer was great. Like you said, Wagner had 2 hits. And it's like, what else are you going to do? You know, more than likely, it's going to be Springer 2, Guerrero 3, Bichette 4. Kirk will get back in the lineup and likely hit 5th. And then we'll see. 5th or 6th tonight. And then beyond that, who knows?
Yeah, exactly. And
we'll see what comes.
I mean, like, I guess the only thing you got to be worried about tonight is there's a chance of thunderstorms in Detroit.
Right.
And they don't have a dome. But other than that, man, it's like this team just has this incredible chemistry going right now where as much as you want them to add some stuff at the trade deadline, I'm starting to – you almost feel like you don't want to upset the mix, like too much. I know, like, you want bullpen help. That goes without
that is mandatory.
Yes.
Mandatory.
And that won't upset the mix.
And you got to bring in someone that is elite.
Yes.
Like they might have to get uncomfortable. Shapiro and Atkins. It might have to be someone that doesn't have 3 years of control.
That'll be tough.
I understand that. I understand that. But like I think that's because I think you're onto something in terms of like the mix. And, the Lauer conversation is one that they have to be having. Mm-hmm. Like, what is this guy going to be 2 months from now? Because it's an unbelievable story right now. He's been great. But obviously you put Barrios, Gosman, and Bassett over there, and you're committed to them, and you know who they are, and they're vets, and they pitch every 5th day, and you're comfortable with that. The Scherzer and Lauer story is a completely different one for completely different purposes. Like, Scherzer is going to the Hall of Fame, but his finger or his elbow or his wrist or his thumb or whatever could flare up or blow up tomorrow, and that's it. He's done. Lauer, it's not about injury. It's about what if the tape gets out league-wide, or what if he turns a corner. Like I referenced Bowden Francis, where he had that great stretch run. Look what happened to him this year.
Yeah.
Like he showed up, he couldn't hit his spots, and all of a sudden he's not even pitching in the major leagues anymore. I know he's been injured, but I think they're trying to find it with Francis more than anything else.
Well, that's a really good point.
So what do you do with Lauer?
It's a good point you make, because you can't lose sight of the fact that Eric Lauer was not pitching in the major leagues last year.
Right.
He was in AAA and the Korean League, right? Like that, he had to go find it elsewhere. Mm-hmm. And he did find it. And here it is. Like, 40, what is he? Opponents batting .213 against him.
Yeah. He's got a 2.61 ERA.
I mean, this guy's rolling.
Yeah. Like he was phenomenal last night. Like he had
Absolutely.
6 strikeouts. Yes, he gave up a, solo home run, but 5 hits, 6 strikeouts. He's got a 2.61 ERA. Goes 8 innings. I would have loved to have seen him get the complete game, but still, he's been that good. So that is a conversation you have to have. But you're right about, like, the mix with the bats. Like, this offense would indicate you don't need really anything else.
Which is amazing.
Now, the rich generally do try to get richer in baseball, in every sport. Like, it doesn't matter how good you are. This is your opportunity to add to it. And, the thing is, like, Jimenez is going to return at some point in play. Varsho's going to return at some point in play. So that's going to mess with your mix anyway. Like, those guys are going to step in and play. And Santander, I don't get the impression he's going to play again this year. I'd be shocked now if he did. But if he does arrive, and he's healthy, he's likely going to be given the opportunity to play because, again, they have a financial commitment to him and a substantial one. And he's a switch hitter and can hit for power. And there's something about that clearly would be very enticing, like if he comes alive, and that's precisely what you would need down the stretch and into the playoffs. So I would look at the reinforcements from within in terms of the lineup, but the bullpen is a non-starter. Like you have to acquire a piece. I would acquire multiple pieces if I could, but I think you need someone like elite, like high-end, whoever's available out there. You have to be willing to pay whatever it takes to bring that guy in. The rotation is where I think it's much more interesting to kind of debate what they're going to do and where they're going to go. And we've been saying the last few days, I would be surprised if they didn't acquire somebody, at least as an option. But I'm not convinced at all it's going to be someone that's like a 2 or a 3. Like, I think it's more likely it's someone that's kind of a depth arm that isn't going to cost them as much to acquire as someone who can give you innings if you need it, if Scherzer gets hurt. You know, if Lauer kind of falls off a cliff a little bit, I don't know how reasonable it is to expect anybody that's going to knock Bassett down the lineup or Barrios down the lineup.
Yeah.
I don't know who's out there. I don't know how much they're willing to pay for it. And again, they may roll the dice that Lauer at least can get to the end of the road, continuing to pitch the way he's been pitching.
You're right. I mean, there's no reason to believe that there's really any sign of him falling off a cliff. Like, I mean, when you pitch like he did last night, we know he doesn't have the overpowering stuff that you've come to expect from guys who really perform well at the major league level. But he locates the fastball. He finds ways to get out. See, there's fly balls, but they're one home run last night. It's not like it's not scary with him on the mound at all.
He's
kind
got
of
like
uneventful,
like a Jamie Moyer vibe to him, like just a smaller guy that just throws. And I mean, I'm very intrigued by what they do there. Bullpen is, you have to acquire somebody. You have to. In terms of adding to your depth with the bats and positionally, I'm not convinced they have to do anything, quite frankly. And I'm not sure what's out there there might be a throw-in player that, switch hitter or someone that can play different positions or defensive depth or someone that runs or whatever. They may acquire that as a body, but not as an impact player that's going to necessarily knock anybody out of the lineup on a daily basis. But the rotation is where it's going to get intriguing. And again, I think last night just made it that much more, difficult to predict because of how well Lauer pitched and how well he's been good all year. Since he arrived, he's been a rock star every fifth day.
Yeah, and so I mean, these guys just, the one thing with this team is done, is they've made it tough on Shapiro and Atkins in some ways because, it's like I think maybe a month ago when they weren't hitting any home runs and the power numbers were down before they kind of exploded in July with 26 home runs in the month. It felt like you almost needed a power bat because if you couldn't, there's a reason you acquired Anthony Santander.
Yes,
because you needed a power bat, right? And the fact that he's not around, the logic would dictate you still need a power bat if you don't have him, right? And yet, they're kind of making the case that maybe you don't.
Well, injuries have been a huge benefit to them this year, which generally obviously goes the opposite way. But Varsho getting hurt has allowed other players to play. Santander just basically not playing all year has allowed other guys to show up because and even Jimenez, right? Like those are 3 everyday ball players. Jimenez playing second, Varsho's playing center field, and Santander's playing left DH. Like if they're healthy, those guys are playing. And maybe they all play well and they all perform and everything's all good and you'd still be in this position. But if that happens, I don't know if Addison Barger's up here, and I know he doesn't have the same role. Nowhere close to that. Lou Perfido's not up here. Wagner's not up here. Clement probably is because he's playing, third base, and Barger's played third base a bunch this year too. But those guys are just nowhere near as prominent. They're not getting the at bats that they have gotten this year that has allowed them to flourish. So in the weirdest way possible, injuries and absences have allowed the Jays to get to where they're at.
Yeah.
And what it's done is put more pressure on the GM and by extension, I guess, the manager to figure out what combination of players you want as of August 1st. Yeah. And what's going to get you over the top coming down the stretch and into October. Because the way it stands right now, they're clearly a favorite to win the division. But what do they have? 7.5, 8-game lead on like the team just outside the wild card.
That's
like
right.
they're so far in.
You're in.
And you're cruising. You got to believe you're going to the playoffs. Like, yes, you got 60 games left. There's still a lot of baseball left. But the way they've been playing and the way things are going and the way the rest of the American League is pretty watered down, you know, the idea that they're not going to chase 87, 88 wins at a minimum to make sure you get in seems very far-fetched. So you got to figure out who you want to play and who's going to be a part of your program moving forward. And you got less than a week to do it.
I mean, to your point, like Fangraphs has them at a 95% probability to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's almost unfathomable they're going to fall off the cliff and not make it, right?
Yes. So, and listen, a lot of baseball, we've seen crazy things, but they're also pretty deep into the season now. There's been a lot of sample size on who they are.
Yeah.
And how they continue to operate and the depth they've had.
Although I guess, look, the Tigers would say to you, we started out this season looking like we were untouchable.
Yeah.
And we were a wagon.
The Yankees were too early in the season.
And the Jays were minus 31 run differential in April, let's not forget, where they were 29th in home runs.
Yep.
So, you know, they are the same team that did that in April. So, yeah, there's probably some regression that comes, but I don't know, like,
to the extent where they'd miss, it would have to be one of the bigger meltdowns we've ever seen.
It's just hard to imagine that with the vibes this team is giving off in terms of, you know, next man up, all for one for all. Doesn't have to be you tonight. It can be me tonight. You're not having it. You know, it doesn't have to be Vladdy, and it hasn't been Vladdy a lot of nights.
Well, he's hitting for hitting for average. You know, he had 3 hits again last night. But yeah, like in terms of
the world's most expensive singles hitter, as Griff calls him.
That's effectively what he is. He's slugging under 450 right now.
Yeah, but he gets on base, and he's a great enthusiastic presence, and
which he is, and they're
professional hitter, and
it's one of those things where it's like, well, he's supposed to be, and he's get paid to be. You're right, but there are also other guys who get paid a lot of money, and they don't have those attributes. Like the one thing I was always pushing for in order to keep Vladdy, and I was pretty adamant about that. Not necessarily at $500 million, but it's not my money. He plays every day. You have to drag him off the field.
Yeah.
He's not one of these players that, I'm not feeling great. I'll take that day off. Or can you pencil me in something next week? Or like he's always on the top of the dugout, seemingly like A, rooting on his guys, but B, ready to play ball.
Yeah.
Like he is a freak of nature. He loves baseball.
No doubt.
And I do think there's a lot of value in that. And I think that's what John Schneider was talking about yesterday in terms of, like we asked him about the power, and, you know, John's going to filibuster a bit. Well, he might get to 40. Maybe he'll stay at 13.
He ain't getting to 40.
No, he's not getting to 40, but he's also not going to stay at 13. But, you know, he talked about his general attitude and approach and the maturity and the energy that he brings, and he's on his toes. I mean, he's up there in the 9th inning last night. I believe he came up in the 9th, and he's staying on it. And I think there's value in that.
Oh, there is.
You know, is it $500 million? No. There's got to be more than that. But that's a good starting point for a guy like Vladdy, where his energy and his exuberance and his willingness to show up to the park and always want to play, I think that permeates the group. Yeah,
100%. I mean, you've heard him talking this year about how he can't wait to get up in the morning and see his guys and be with his teammates, and that there's something special about that. And you know, we all know, guys, that gets said a lot in pro sports, but this team looks like they mean it. Like this team looks like there's actually something kind of special about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, look, when you're first place in the American League and you're essentially, you know, unbeatable lately,
everything's going to look perfect. Everything's going to look perfect.
We'll wait until there will be a struggle coming at some point, and we'll see how they react to that.
That's going to be probably the best determination of what they're really made of.
Yeah.
Because, they're going to go through it. They're going to lose 7 or 10 or something, or, you know, lose 3 or 4 in a row or get swept in a series. And then it's like, all right, how do you get back up off the mat? Because that is a testament to a great team that gets hit, knows it's coming, and doesn't wallow in it or doesn't allow it to go even further south. You get hit, you get knocked down, you get back up, you get going. Because right now it's been like they're almost shocked if they lose. Like even the game they lost against the Yankees, it was, you know, Ben Rice hit a home run in the top of the 9th. Like it was 4-4 going into the 9th. You know, it's not like it's not a scenario where they're getting blown out. They lost to the White Sox 2-1, you know, in that getaway game.
Yeah.
Like the games they're losing, they probably should win, or they're right there And that's another thing that will come over the course of a 60-game stretch run. They're going to get their doors blown off one night. What does that look like? How do you react to it? How do you stay even-keeled? How do you come back the next day? Like, all these things are still coming, but right now, ride the wave while you can, because, again, you roll it over to tonight, Barrios on the mound, you just assume he'll pitch well and they'll find a way to win.
Yeah.
You know, bats will be alive and they'll find a way to win. And you got a righty on the mound for the Tigers, so Barger's going to play. Barger probably hits 5th tonight then. Maybe Kirk hits 6th, and we'll see what else comes of it. All right, we've got Steve Phillips, who is from Detroit, Michigan himself. Right, born and raised in Detroit. We'll catch up with Steve just after 5 o'clock. Dallas Braden later this afternoon. Farhan Lalji, who's been doing some NFL camp work, and obviously we got a new week coming up here in the CFL, so we'll catch up with Farhan a little bit later this afternoon. Dave Feschuk in here. I'm Brian Hayes. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.
Back to Overdrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
All right, Overdrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Steve Phillips in just over half an hour. We were talking about the future earlier today and AI and all this, and there's videos of LeBron James going around using AI, and I guess LeBron's legal team has basically, I think it's not filed suit, but cease and desist orders have been sent out. And I fully support LeBron. You mentioned Taylor Swift has dealt with stuff like this before. I know it seems kind of like, why are you wasting your time? And don't you have bigger and better things to do? And you can't win against the internet, which sometimes is true. Probably more often than not is true. But if you don't stop the craziness of AI now, what's it going to be in the future? Like, especially for celebrities, man. I fully support LeBron, Taylor Swift, anyone else. If there's like crazy stuff, even if it's joking in nature, which it is for the most part, it's like still your image. It's still you. And what do you have a legal team for if they're not going to fight on your behalf?
This is a bizarre state of affairs.
Yes.
That
it really is.
People that are obviously very talented and have technical skills to kind of concoct images using real images of LeBron overlapped with AI images of a pregnant LeBron somehow.
Right. Yeah, that's what's out there.
Pregnant LeBron meme. Why ever that is a thing, I have no idea. I don't really get the joke.
I don't really either.
Other than it's really bizarre.
Yeah.
But that's where we are, right? It's a strange set of circumstances that led us to this point in human history.
It really is.
Where somebody thought, I know what'll be fun. I'm going to make an image of a pregnant LeBron.
Yeah. And now it's gone viral.
Right.
And now that LeBron and his team are fighting against it, means it's going to become bigger and bigger.
You wonder, right?
I do wonder, because now people are going to be talking about it. But there have, like this one, it's so goofy and stupid. But there's also been other usages of AI and
more malicious
that have been much more malicious. Absolutely. And that's where the government's got to get involved, and you got to have the law. You have to have people fighting on behalf of celebrities or public figures, but also just like private citizens, or this could happen to anybody at some point.
Apparently it does.
Yeah, I guess it does. So, but I wasn't expecting that story from LeBron. Like, with everything that's going on, and you're waiting to see what the Lakers are going to do in the future, and is Luka going to sign the extension, which has not happened yet, which I find quite intriguing. I read a report earlier this week that I guess, I think he's in Europe, and it sounds like the Laker brass is going over there.
Yeah, he's playing for Slovenia in Eurobasket, right? Which is a really long tournament.
Right. So they're going over to see him and watch, and they're going to try to sit down and knock out some details, which is pretty incredible when you think about it. Like, the Lakers, they got to try to convince him to stay. And I think he will. Like, I fully expect he'll sign the max, and it's not going to be nearly as much as it would have been if he was still in Dallas. But there is no guarantees until he actually puts pen to paper.
No.
What happens with Luka and the Lakers moving forward? And that's where, again, the intrigue of LeBron, who has 1 year left on his deal. For the first time in his career, he does not have any option beyond this season for the team he's currently playing for.
And he's never been a lame duck player, right?
Yeah.
He's never been a guy on an expiring contract whose team did not do what the Lakers are going to do with Luka Doncic, which is grovel and beg and pamper and cajole him at every turn to get him to sign the contract, right? And that, you talk about sort of distracting storylines to kind of take you away from what's really going on, like the AI deepfake LeBron being pregnant cease and desist order. That's a good one for us to not talk about the fact that LeBron's in kind of a very unprecedented situation for LeBron.
Yeah, he is. And how he handles that, I think all bets are off. Like, all bets are off on how LeBron's going to handle this. The idea that the Lakers may not want him beyond this year. The idea that maybe the Lakers feel like we're kind of straddled. Like it was a player option and you picked it up, so I guess you're welcome back.
Yeah.
I don't know how they really feel about him. I do feel like they are in the right, though, in putting Luka first. You have to put Luka ahead of LeBron. Like, the red carpet's got to be there for Luka Doncic. You're all in on him. You acquired him. You've got him. You need him to stay long term. And he's the 25-year-old. LeBron's 40, 41. It's very simple in sports. Like the new guy, the young guy, he's always going to get the priority, and he should.
It's simple in sports. Obviously, in that line, I get it. Like obviously you have to.
You can only sign one guy. It's Luka.
No, there's no option. Like when you have a player of Luka's talent, newsflash to the Dallas Mavericks, when you have a player of Luka's talent, you do everything you can to keep him. Okay, Nico Harrison felt differently. That was weird.
Yep.
Speaking of weird things that have kind of shocked the internet, Nico Harrison deciding that Luka wasn't worth keeping was weird.
Now he's got Cooper Flagg, which was always a part of his plan, according to Harrison.
Exactly. But, on the other front, though, the other stuff they've done, I don't quite get. Like the way that they inform Luka that the franchise is changing hands, right? From the Buss family to Mark Walter. They don't give LeBron the heads up on that, right? Like they gave LeBron, they gave Luka the respect of, sort of a dinner here to meet the new ownership, and they didn't do the same for LeBron. And it's like you've got a guy who is, 1-2.
Yeah, he's a living legend.
Player.
He's a living legend, and he's a Laker.
The contractual stuff's one thing, but just the respect stuff of, you're one of our partners here. Like you may be a league owner at some point,
right, in
the very near future, if a lot of prognostications about what LeBron's post-playing career will come true. I'm kind of surprised they haven't shown him the kind of respect that I, if I was running the team, I would show LeBron. And I understand that to some degree. Like I think LeBron's team can wear on teams.
Well, see, I wonder if that's what's happening. Like what you see a lot of times in sports, or in business in general, when there's a new owner, the previous owner has to flush everyone out so that the new guy can come in and doesn't have to have that hanging over him.
Right.
Right. So before the company's sold, a lot of people get laid off. A lot of people get fired. And what's really happening is it's the new owner saying, get rid of those people, please, so I don't have to do it when I arrive.
Yeah, that's true.
And I wonder if that's what's happening here. Is the new owner's like, I don't want the connection with LeBron. I'm not going to have the connection with LeBron. He's got one more year and he's gone. And I don't really need to get in bed, so to speak, with LeBron. That wouldn't surprise me of what's going on here. And again, it's a player option that LeBron picked up. So they're like, all right, well, he has to be a Laker. But they may not even want him to be a Laker. And the new owner may not want him to be a Laker. And again, that's not necessarily kosher with the way you would generally respect your stars and your legends. But is he really an LA legend? Is he a Laker legend? I don't know. I mean,
got him a title.
Like, yeah, he did in the bubble, and it was
still counts.
Yeah,
he still hung the banner.
I guess so. But he's, needless to say, not Kobe, not Magic, not Kareem.
No, he never will.
And he never ever will be. And it was impossible for him to get to that point. But yeah, it's going to be intriguing to see what happens with the Lakers and Luka in the future. And I had put together a little list. Myself and Cammie put together a list because everyone's doing their top 25 of the last 25 years, and we've been doing that obviously here in terms of Toronto athletes. And we had discussed it yesterday, like the best athletes of the last 25 years, and not specific to any sport. Mm-hmm. And I would put Brady at the top of my list, Tom Brady at 1. I'd think about Tiger at 2, if not Tiger, LeBron, and then the list can go on from there. And there's been a lot of great ones. Federer would be up there, and Serena would be up there. There's a lot of great athletes. Let me throw a few names at you, or a few ideas, and you tell me whether or not you think they could end up in the top 50 when we do this again in 2050.
Oh, okay.
So 25 years from now, do you think any of these athletes or any of these scenarios could be or will be, let's be definitive here, will be listed as one of the 50 best athletes of the last 50 years?
A half-century team.
So I'm going to fast forward 25 years from now. Let's start with Luka because we're talking about him. I think Luka Doncic will be considered one of the 50 greatest athletes of the century.
That's a good one. I mean, he's got a chance now that he's in the, one of the epicenters of basketball that, with a franchise that's got one expectation every year. They
it helps him that he's with the Lakers.
It does.
For a list like this, because
there's only one thing that matters in LA, and that's hanging another banner, hanging the next banner, being better than the Celtics all time, right? Mm-hmm. And so, but he's got to win titles.
Yeah, that's it.
And he still hasn't. And right now, he's not in a position to win one, right? Like
that's why I don't think he's going to make it.
I don't think.
Like I look at current players who may not be in the top 25. That wouldn't be, but Jokic is way further ahead than Luka. Now Luka's got time to possibly catch up, but when you look, I think we're going to look back on Jokic and say, "What the hell was that?" Like his stats, his numbers, He could have easily had 5 MVPs by now.
Yeah.
He's got a few, but he maybe probably should have beat Embiid the one year. You could argue could have beat SGA, maybe should have this year. Like, he could have like 5 in a row right now.
He's a bit like McDavid. Like, even though he hasn't, McDavid doesn't win the Hart Trophy every year, didn't win it this year.
Mm-hmm.
Jokic has, didn't win it this year, has been beaten out by Embiid. But all through that time, and to this day, if you ask people who's the best player in the NBA,
Jokic.
it's Jokic.
Yes, and he's got his title.
McDavid's the best player in the NHL, and it's not really that close. So you're right. He's been the best player in the NBA for most of half a decade at least.
Mm-hmm.
Got the one title. I'm not sure they're going to get more there in Denver. I mean, it's
I don't think so either.
Bit.
And especially with the owner's comments recently, and we'll try to keep him, but we don't know, and all this second apron stuff. And
Josh Kroenke, that's not the way to run a franchise.
I'm not sure it is, but I do think Jokic will be a part of this. That's why I don't think it's worthy of a debate personally. Like, I think Jokic will establish himself, if he hasn't already, as one of the 50 best athletes of the last 50 years. If we're going to get to 2050,
I think you're right.
Luka, I'm going to say no. What about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? You think Shai can get into that category?
I mean, he's got
truly
a chance.
One of the great athletes.
He's a truly great athlete, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
who can do a lot of great things. And now he's on this team that is defying all the moaning and groaning in the NBA about how tough it is to build teams in the second apron era, because they got 3 guys, their top 3 guys signed to max deals, and there's every indication they can keep this thing afloat for a few years. So he's got a chance to win multiple titles.
Yes, he
and that's
does.
what's probably going to be required for a guy like SGA to get into that group.
100%. He's going to have, there's only so many MVPs he's going to get, in my opinion. Like, a great player, but he's just, there's a lot of competition. Giannis is still cooking.
Yes.
Jokic is cooking. If Luka takes off and is in shape and with the Lakers, like Luka, I would not be surprised at all if he won the MVP next year.
No.
Like, not in the least. And there's always other players coming, including, Wembanyama, if he's healthy and he's playing, and Wemby's another guy we can get to. But I'm going to say no with SGA because, again, if you're talking all sports to be considered like truly one of the greats, I don't know if he can get there.
Yeah, like how many NBA guys are going to get into that list?
That's the thing. Like, if you're talking, because again, if it's the half century, if we're jumping in a time machine and going forward, LeBron's still included in this.
Yeah, well,
Steph Curry's still included in this. You know what I mean?
They're way ahead.
They're way ahead. I can't picture him getting to that level. I can't picture SGA getting to where Jokic is right now. I'm not sure he gets to where like Giannis is considered in terms of his career.
I think he's going to have a chance to get to where Jokic is, because if he can win, like, let's say Jokic never wins another title,
mm-hmm.
and as good as he's had this run where he's been the best player in the league for a handful of years, but he's only got the one title. I think Shai could kind of get into the conversation with a guy like that if he's on a team that wins 3 titles.
It's a dynasty or something,
yeah.
Yes,
or 3 in the next 5 years or something like that, or 4 in the next 7 years. Which like a Spurs-esque, a Popovich Spurs-esque kind of run.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what they're hoping they can be in OKC. I mean, against all odds, as we say, because there's going to be a million roadblocks in their way in terms of how do you fill out the roster.
They've locked up the big 3.
Yeah, but they got a lot of draft picks, and
that's the crazy
thing. Be able to keep bringing in young guys that are on very cheap contracts to kind of round out the unit.
Yeah,
not going to be easy.
Or trade one of the big 3
Possibly.
Because of the young guys that are coming. Like, I don't think it'll be Shai. Like, Shai's the face of that.
Yeah,
but
who knows with Chet
Holmgren, trade him, or
he looks. Who knows if he'll be able to stay healthy for a long career. That's a big wild card. I mean, Jalen Williams is a really good
Just
player.
The nature of the NBA right now, it would strike fear into me if I'm a Oklahoma City Thunder fan that, like you said, the roadblocks, it's not only internal, it's just the way that the NBA operates right now.
Yeah.
Like this time last year, a lot of people were suspecting that the Celtics were about to go on a serious run. And a year later, they're basically breaking things down and they're dumping players. And obviously Tatum's injured. He won't be playing. So you're one injury away from possibly tearing it down in some capacity.
Well, the Achilles, the number of Achilles tears that we've seen in the league from Tatum on down, and Halliburton in the finals.
Yeah,
which is just
Dame. There's so many.
It's the worst thing in the world, right? You hate to see it happen, but you're right. It's just so unpredictable. Like, the league is just.
And that's the way Adam Silver wants it. Evidently, he wants a different winner every single year.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what's happened under his tutelage.
Seven championships and 7 different teams. He's not, going back to
the Raptors
before
in
the
19.
Raptors won. Yeah, so it's but you're right. It, like, that kind of NBA does not allow, theoretically, the guys who are playing in it to catch a LeBron, to catch a Steph, right, in terms of this half-century team that we're talking about. Because guess what? The Warriors and those Heat teams that LeBron was on, they were operating under a different set of rules that allowed you to go on these sustained runs.
Yes. All right, in terms of the top 50, so we're into the future in 2050, and we look back on the top 50 athletes of the century. Do you think any quarterbacks not named Mahomes will be on that list? Because he's obviously a lock. He could be one of the 25 best athletes of the last 25 years, period.
Oh, yeah.
He might be on that list right now.
Well,
so he's certainly going to be on the top 50. But is there anyone else playing in the – basically, it's Allen, Jackson, Burrow. Like, those are the three that I think are legitimately competing.
I mean, the answer is no right now, because it's just all those guys are going to have to go on such a run. Because let's face it, in the lead up to the Super Bowl in New Orleans this year, we were talking about if Mahomes can win this game, he'd have 4 Super Bowls. He'd be on pace, on a really good pace to catch Brady. At 7, right?
Right.
And now has
only 29.
Has a terrible game in the Super Bowl. Suddenly, Chiefs don't look as unbelievable as they often do. But yeah, the 3 Super Bowls. The fact that he's just been incomparable as a clutch player outside of one game.
Yeah. But he's a
this
lot.
year.
He's in it.
I just don't see how anybody catches him in this group. Right?
It may not be about catching him. It may just be about joining, right, in terms of this practice that we're having right now. I think Lamar probably has the best opportunity to do that. Lamar Jackson's already got 2 MVPs, 3 first-team All-Pros. If he gets a Super Bowl MVP, but they're a really good team and they're in it every single year, and he's 27. Lamar Jackson, I think 10 years from now, we may look at him as an all-time great. And I think Allen and Burrow, I think they all have a similar, option or opportunity at that. But I think Allen in particular, because it's the Bills too, where what we just said about Luka and the Lakers, I think it works almost the opposite way in the NFL. If you take Buffalo and get there, that launches you.
Yeah.
Right? Like Shea doesn't get the credit necessarily. Well, it's Oklahoma City, and we don't want to pay attention to that. But with the Lakers, like in the NBA, if you do it as a star on one of the primetime teams, it's worth more. In the NFL, Mahomes is in. Look at the quarterbacks we're talking about: Kansas City, Cincinnati, Buffalo, and Baltimore.
Yeah.
Those are the big 4 in the league right now. None of those cities are anywhere close to New York, Chicago, L.A., Miami. San Francisco, not even close. They're all blue collar, small, Midwestern, Northeastern cities.
The amazing thing about the
incredible.
NFL, right? Market doesn't matter.
It's completely irrelevant. So I think Lamar would be my first choice, and I think he will get there. I think he will end up on this list as a top 50 of the last 50 years, and I think Josh Allen's got a real chance. I think he's a Super Bowl away from us looking at him completely differently. Differently. If you can win a Super Bowl in Buffalo, it's like winning an NBA championship in Toronto. It just seemed impossible for the longest time.
Because he's had it. All the numbers have been there. They've been one of the best teams in the league by almost every metric, right? For so long with him at the helm. Just got to get that big.
And he's still young too, right? All these guys, we got 10 more years of those 4 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
That's. When you think about it, Brady just retired, Manning not that long ago, the NFL just turned the page like it was nothing.
You're right.
Now it's Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Jackson. They're all in the AFC for the next 10 years.
A lot of fun, man.
Just incredible theater. Steve Phillips in about 20 minutes. Jay's back in action tonight after absolutely destroying the Tigers last night. We're less than a week away from the trade deadline. We'll get into that and more coming up with Steve. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.
Now, back to Overdrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
All right, Steve Phillips in about 10 minutes. Jays, Tigers tonight. Bichette was, speaking about his future before the game yesterday and said all he wanted was a place to win with great energy, and everyone thought the same way. And he said, checking a lot of boxes right now, the Blue Jays. But
yet he hasn't signed, and his options are open.
Yeah.
And his value continues to freaking skyrocket.
He's having a really good year. Like, to his credit, he's been incredibly clutch. He's been healthy. It's a big part of it.
Yes.
Like, he wasn't healthy last year.
No.
And when he was playing and somewhat healthy, he was terrible. Like, he had an awful year last year. But he has really bounced back, and he's going to get paid, whether it's Toronto or elsewhere. You get a guy in their mid to late 20s playing short that can hit the way he hits, and he's on a heater right now. That guy's getting paid. Just a matter of how much he's getting paid and how much has the goalpost moved in baseball from prior to the Ohtani, Soto, Guerrero world to where we are now. Because, like, you look at a guy like Xander Bogaerts who got, 250 or something like that. I don't think it's going to be 250 anymore.
No, not even close.
Not in Toronto. I don't think it's going to be 250.
Not even close.
Yeah, Lindor was, 310, 315?
That was a long time ago.
That was a long time ago. So we'll catch up with Steve Phillips, get his take on that. Like, what kind of value do you place on Bichette? How important is he to this team's future? And we'll tee up the game tonight. Again, the Jays coming off another big win in Detroit last night. Hour 2 up next. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.
It's Mail It In Friday.
The plant called and said if you don't come in tomorrow, don't bother coming in Monday.
Woohoo! 4-day weekend.
This is OverDrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog on TSN 1050.
Hour 2 OverDrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Brian Hayes, Dave Feschuk. We got Steve Phillips coming up here in a few moments. Jays Tigers tonight after what was a pretty entertaining game again last night if you're a Blue Jay fan. Like 15 hits, 11 runs. Eric Lauer goes 8 innings. It's just this unbelievable run post All-Star break.
It really is.
It's incredible.
It's just, yeah, you just cannot believe this is the same team we were talking about early in the season that couldn't score runs and couldn't hit for power. And, it just really wasn't pitching that well either. I mean, it's an incredible turnaround. It's one of the great turnarounds that we've seen in Toronto sports. I'm trying to think of a season that's kind of gone like this for any of the teams where you didn't expect much. They didn't start well, and then they just caught fire.
Yeah, that is a good question. There's been Raptors seasons like that, but I think you'd have to go way back.
Way back to the beginning of the Masai era.
Yeah. Remember when Colangelo first showed up and they got all the European players like Garbajosa and Anthony Parker came over and Sam Mitchell was still he won Coach of the Year that year. I think it was 7, I think it was. And I don't think anyone had any. I remember TJ Ford they acquired. Like, that was actually a lot.
That was a fun year.
That was a really fun year.
Until Garbajosa broke his leg.
Oh, gruesomely, really too. Game. Remember him? Like, he was chasing down a block, and he went up, and it was brutal. Awful, man.
Just brutal. What a player he was. He was such a heart and soul player.
Yeah. Like, that was great work by Colangelo and his staff. Like that. I think Calderon, was he a rookie that year, too?
Yeah,
I think it was.
He was young at the time.
Calderon, Garbajosa, and Parker, and they pick up TJ Ford, and Chris Bosh keeps growing. That's
right. Bosh was playing well. That was a fun team.
Yeah.
And TJ Ford too. Like he had some ugly injuries in his career. But at his best, he was fun to watch.
Yeah.
Really
well, he was in that 03 draft, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Didn't TJ go 6th or 7th?
He was in the top 10. Yeah.
Yeah. What a draft that was.
Oh,
obviously LeBron. At the top.
LeBron and Carmelo and
D Wade and Chris Bosh and TJ Ford and Kirk Heinrich was in that draft. I think. Remember Chicago took him. Yeah, it was a great draft. Great draft.
But you're right. Like there haven't been there have been teams that you didn't expect much from that overachieved, and that Raptors one is a good case in point. But Leafs haven't had a season like that in a while.
Not that I can recall.
There's been such high expectations.
Yeah, probably in '99 would be the last one. I think that was Pat Quinn's first year. I think Curtis Joseph was on that team. So maybe you should have been expecting them to be really good. But remember, they had that weird period after '93, '94 where they were pretty bad there for a few years. And Burns left, and Gilmore left, and Clark kind of came and went. And then Caberlet showed up. That was his rookie year, I believe, and Quinn and Cujo. And they actually won the division, I believe, that year, which is something they had not done up until this past year. So, yeah, very rare. But that's what's happening here with the Blue Jays. And you're right. Like, the start wasn't like there was any indication on May 1st that this was coming. But they have an MLB high 20 wins in the last month. They're scoring 1 million runs every single night. We talked about it last hour. They're not striking out. Like, nobody on the team is a black hole in the lineup. Nobody. Like, they don't strike out as a team. They're leading the majors in that category over the last month and a half.
They don't take bad swings.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, from an entertainment standpoint, that's probably the biggest difference year over year. Obviously, wins notwithstanding. But they're a really fun team to watch because they get up there and they mash.
Yeah.
And it's not a scenario where, like, we always look back on that 15 team naturally, and they're a great team. But it was Donaldson, Bautista, and Encarnacion. Like, those were that was like the 3-pack where you're like, good luck chasing these guys out of the box. They're probably going to mash, and they combined for 120 home runs or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And they obviously had other guys on the team that were capable and were good players and good hitters. And, Chris Colabello had one of those years. Yeah. And they had guys show up, and Russell Martin was on that team. But what's amazing, again, about last night, like, the guys who hit the home runs were Lucas, Clement, and Lil Perfido. That's your home run hitters last night.
Amazing.
Not Guerrero, Springer, and Bichette.
No.
And, Addison Barger's getting intentionally walked.
Think about that.
Yeah. Didn't break camp with the team. Showed up in May.
You couldn't write that storyline.
It's incredible. It's incredible. They don't strike out. They're racking up Ks. Eric Lauer was unbelievable last night. Everything is coming up Blue Jays. Here's Steve Phillips, our TSN baseball insider. What has impressed you most since the All-Star break, Steve, when it comes to the Blue Jays?
Yeah, I think it's just a continuation of the good baseball they were playing. And, so many teams that are hot going into the All-Star break come out of it and they cool off. I mean, the Red Sox did. The Red Sox have been limping to start the second half of the season. But the Jays just keep on rolling. And the one unique thing about it is they're beating up good teams. When you start looking at their record of teams that are, who are 500 or better, they're among the winningest teams in baseball against the good teams. It's not just they're beating up on the lesser than teams. So, the other part of it is, as I heard you talking about right there, the contributions from the other guys, right? The Clements and Loperfidos and Lucases and Addison Barger. Really, if you go back to May 7th, I was doing this today at MLB Network, and we talked some Blue Jays today on the show, MLB Now, and because I was talking about their run differential, right? They're a plus 39, and yet their record is so good. But what's interesting is on May 7th, they had a negative 39 run differential. They have been outscored by 39 runs, but that was when Andres Jimenez got hurt, and it meant Barger started playing on a daily basis. He was in the lineup every day from pretty much that point on, and that's when the Jays took off. And so they're a plus 78 in run differential since May 7th. And so his bat in the lineup is, where I really do look at him as the most important player they've had this year. That left-handed bat that started produced, hitting for power, driving the ball in the gap, driving in runs, the versatility to play multiple positions. And then, Clement got hot, and all of the other guys, more of the complementary players, have been producing. And you got to figure at some point Vladdy's going to turn it on and really get hot. And, every once in a while he gives you some at-bats that show that. But the other thing about this team is when you're winning and feeling good, guys are hustling. They're not taking their frustrations out by when they hit a weak ground ball, jogging down the line. Everybody's legging it out. Springer scoring from first base, scoring from second base on the Fried play the other day. Vladdy diving into home plate. And, I don't know if you heard the John Boy media interview with Aaron Boone, but, they were trying to say, well, the Blue Jays, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is flying like Superman diving into home plate. Well, how come your players don't have that same kind of passion that, when they lose, everybody says, well, there's a lot of baseball left, or it's an even keel. Nobody's angry. Nobody's frustrated. And Boone went off. Boone went off about it. Mm-hmm. And so, there is something about the way the Jays are playing that feels contagious, and they're all playing with a real passion right now.
Yeah, they are. And that's been a topic of discussion here, all week. And as we get closer to the trade deadline, is the idea of, upsetting the apple cart. And we had a hypothetical discussion about Barger yesterday, and I agree with your assessment and everything you said about him and the importance of him being a left-handed bat. But, Barger, Clement, Lou Perfido, Wagner, these are young guys who have made it now and are performing, and I would think they'd have a lot of value in the eyes of, the other teams you might be doing business with. So where would you stand on that idea, that hypothetical, Steve? If there's a trade that Ross Atkins loves, he checks off multiple boxes, but it's going to cost you Addison Barger, how would you handle that?
Yeah, I wouldn't put him in it. I think you got 6 years of control, and I would find another package to put together in the deal. If it's the Yasevich kid pitching, I'd put somebody else in it, but I'm not. I don't think they're in a position where they have to rob Peter to pay Paul on anything right now. And I would, find selected deals that fit rather than give up a major league piece. Now, I also don't believe, though, that they can stand pat. The analogy that I've used for that is that if you've ever been in a traffic jam in your car, you kind of just look down a little bit, and all of a sudden it feels like you're rolling backwards. And then you look up and you realize, well, you're not rolling backwards. You're just stationary, but the car next to you is creeping forward. But it gives you the illusion that you're going backwards. That's what happens when other teams make deals and you don't. Like when you just stay right where you are, it gives the feeling of moving backwards when everybody else is rolling forward. And so they can't just be a stand pat team. They've got to go out and make some moves just to reinforce that they're getting better, that they've answered some component or situation in the game. You know, whether it's somebody's got to lead off an inning to pinch hit, or the left-handed situational pitcher, or whatever that is, they've got to make a move or two just to reinforce to this team, one, that they believe in them, and two, that they're keeping up with everybody else who's going to make moves as well.
We're talking about Bo Bichette today, Steve, and, you know, he's been very vocal lately about how he, you know, as much as last season it felt like it was unlikely he'd be a long-term Blue Jay at times, given the injury-riddled campaign he had and the unhappiness that kind of permeated that dugout. You know, this year he's talking about, hey, I'm happy to be in a place where I can win and, you know, see this through with Vladdy as we've come up together in this game. And yet, you know, they haven't come to a contract agreement. He's still a pending free agent. How do you see his deal shaping up, Steve? The way he's, you know, nobody in the American League has not named Aaron Judge has more hits. Nobody in the American League not named Bobby Witt has more doubles. He's having a hell of a year in a contract year. What kind of problems is that going to pose if the Blue Jays are going to want to re-sign him?
Well, I mean, it's a good problem to have. You know, my owner used to. It was so funny. I'd want to make a trade, and the owner would be like, "Well, but you know, he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year, and if you trade for him and he plays well, then you're going to be under pressure to sign him." I'm like, "Well, isn't that the whole idea? For me to trade for somebody and have him play well?" I said, "I'll handle it. You know, if we can't sign him, I'll be the one who stands up there and says we can't do it. But let's not trade for not trade for a player because we're afraid he might play well for us. Like, that's what we're trying to do." And, you know, with Bichette, you know, my view is that, you know, it's been very difficult to arrive at the right number. You know, coming into this year, it was going to be impossible. You know, where the team would start, where he would want it to go and be treated like what he thinks he could be or what he had been in the past, where the team was looking at what he's been the last couple of years. There was such a gap there that it was a non-starter in a negotiation. I think now, like the Vladdy situation, where Vlad put together a good year, it's easier for the team to look at Bichette at the upper echelon of where he wanted to be looked at. And he's earned that right to evaluate it that way. And he's looking like the Bichette from the past. And so I think that if I'm the agent for Bichette, I would, unless Bo has this adamant view that he just wants to work out a deal with the Jays without going to the open market. But if I'm him, I've got to go to the open market right now. I'm too close to free agency. And I saw where the shortstop market went a couple years ago with Xander Bogaerts and Trey Turner and you know, those on Correa and all those contracts. He had to be licking his chops when that happened. So, you know, that's a market that I think is now a couple years old, and you're talking about, you know, $300 million guys. So, yeah, I think they're going to have to wait, and he'll probably go out there and they're going to have to, you know, try to pay him the most money to get him to come here and stay. But I don't think there's anything else you're going to be able to do right now. They're not going to want to negotiate. But Bichette and his agent don't want to negotiate now in season when he's this close to free agency.
With Steve Phillips, our TSN Baseball Insider, Jays Tigers tonight. Eric Lauer had himself another, you know, phenomenal outing last night, and he's got a 2.61 ERA. You look at, you know, the amount of strikeouts he's racking up in his last 7 starts: 8, 5, 4, 6, 7, 7, 6 again last night. How do you approach this moving forward? You know, like we know Bassett, Barrios, and Gausman are going to be a part of this rotation. Scherzer, if he's healthy, he's going to pitch. Lauer's clearly not going anywhere because he's pitching so well and he's so reliable. But as a GM, how do you project for the rest of the season and into the playoffs and try to get a read on if Lauer can keep this together?
Yeah, so you know, he's been really good, and as you mentioned, and he's been consistently good.
Yes.
So you know, he keeps getting the ball for me until there's a reason not to give it to him, you know, and you play it out. And, you know, once you get to the playoffs, you'll figure out from there what maybe it comes down to the matchup with the other team. You know, is it somebody else? Would somebody else be a better person to bounce back and come out of the bullpen? And, you know, Lauer's, you know, done that when he's been sort of the journeyman guy trying to hang around so he can do it. And not the worst thing to have a left-hander to back up the three right-handers if you need some long relief, in Bassett, Gosman, and Barrios. And so, but I think he keeps getting the ball right now, and I would still look to get another starter, even if I have to go to a six-man rotation. I would want to get another starter. I think you have to protect yourself, for the final 2 months, because if somebody gets hurt on August 5th and you don't have somebody to replace them, then then you've got a big gaping hole in your rotation. So, and I'm not going to do anything to count on Manoah coming back at any point. If he does, great. It'd be a terrific story, but I'm not saving a spot for him. You can't. You've got to go out there and go with what you know is a fact. And what you know is a fact is you got five guys, and Lauer's been a little inconsistent in his career, although he seems locked in. And Scherzer's been so injury-prone, although he's taken the ball every fifth day for the last 5 turns. But there's still some risk there, and I think you have to hedge that bet. So I suspect they look to bring in another arm.
So the Jays continue the series in Detroit tonight. Steve, the Tigers, you're a Detroit guy, Steve. What do you make of these Tigers who started out as one of the great storybook beginnings in Major League Baseball, and A.J. Hinch was the runaway favorite to win Manager of the Year. But John Schneider is creeping up on him as the Blue Jays surge, and the Tigers have now lost, 10 of their last 11 after last night's 11-4 thrashing at the hands of the Blue Jays. Can A.J. Hinch turn this team around?
Yeah, it's so interesting, right? When teams go into these slumps like this, it comes down to, were they just a mediocre team that was playing at a high level, and now they're coming back down to earth? Is it just the nature of baseball where you kind of run into it for a couple of weeks and everybody goes through it and falls off a little bit? Does it mean that everything else wasn't real that we saw with this winning record, where they, first team to 60 wins and all of it? And so, I think the reality is you're never as good as you are when you're playing your best. You're never as bad as you look when you're playing your worst. I mean, that's the reality is that. And so it feels really bad for the Tigers. And A.J. Hinch even said it feels like it's been going on forever, because this slump started a couple days before the All-Star break, lingered through it, and continued afterwards. They don't have the aircraft carrier, right? They don't have the big guy in the middle of the lineup who could put the team on the shoulders for a couple days while everybody else starts to get going. He's carrying the team. Now, Riley Green, maybe he'll grow into it, but he's not that guy just yet, and he's struggling right now. And so they're pitching. They don't get enough swing and miss. They're ranked 29th out of their bullpen in strikeouts, so they don't get swing and miss out of the pen. And they play that pitching chaos, where Hinch just brings in people, almost feels like willy-nilly, like this guy or that guy or that guy, and it worked. But their bullpens are fickle, and it's hard to know from year to year what they're going to do, and they're not hitting right now. I thought they were playing over their skis. I did not think they were that good a team. I didn't think that they were going to be, the same team that came out of the last 2 months of the season last year, just because it was so atypical. It doesn't work that way, where you're a seller, and then next thing you know, you go on and make a run over the last 2 months, and you turn out to be a playoff team after you traded away some good players. So I think there's some flaws on that team. I don't think they've not had any one player on the team who's had a full, consistent season in their career. Baez is such a streaky guy with peaks and valleys, but Riley Green's, shown flashes, but never been, a consistent guy from year to end. And so I don't know. I think A.J. Hinch is the right guy for that team, but somehow they've got to win a couple of games and start to believe in themselves again, because I think the element of doubt is creeping in right now in Detroit.
Yeah, yet they've got an 8-game lead on anyone else in the Central, right? Like, the division's so bad.
They built a huge margin for error.
Yeah,
they certainly did.
Exactly. And meanwhile, deals are starting to go down. The Yankees acquired Ryan McMahon, third baseman from the Rockies today. How much does that move the needle for you in terms of the Yankees? And they got a big one this weekend, the Phillies at Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, really big series. And the Yankees haven't been playing that great, and the Phillies have been playing a little bit better. So, I like Ryan McMahon. Now, his offensive numbers have fallen off a little bit over the last couple of years, but he's a left-handed bat at Yankee Stadium and a Gold Glove caliber third baseman. So they're better now with him. And what I think is interesting is the preemptive strike by Brian Cashman and the acknowledgement of, we're not going to pay the price for Suarez. So before Suarez moves and everybody pivots to plan B, let's get plan B and make them our plan A, is what Brian Cashman did. Because that was really the thing. There's like 5, 6, 7, 8 teams that are in on Suarez, and only one team is going to get him, and everybody else is going to have to go somewhere else. And so I think Cashman made the right move. Make the Rockies an offer they can't refuse now, and before the Suarez thing go, where everybody else starts to get desperate for that fallback guy. So I think it's good. It's a good move for the Yankees. I do. I think he's a solid everyday player, and I think he'll hit better in the Yankee lineup. And that short porch and right's not going to hurt either.
What was your philosophy as a GM, Steve, when the trade deadline's approaching? Were you the kind of guy that wanted to get your work done early before the deadline, like today, for example, the way the Yankees just did to address one of their weaknesses, or did you like to let it go to the very end and see what the best offers were?
Yeah, no, I did mostly buying in my years as general manager, which I'm glad about, right? It meant we were in it. And I would make a deal whenever somebody was ready to make a deal. What's really interesting is I was the caller. I was the one who would always call the other side. I rarely received the calls. I was the one making them. And I remember, the whole Scott Hatteberg, remember the money ball, and Scott Hatteberg, the catcher was going to play first base. And I called Dan Duquette, I want to say 30 times to try to find a way to get Scott Hatteberg from him before he ended up trading him out to Oakland. But I would call everybody and just check in, because I was afraid that if I didn't, and I did everything out of fear, really. I would call. I did. Because in New York, if the answer was, well, I talked to him last Thursday, but I haven't heard anything since then. If you're like, well, why didn't you call him? So I'm like, I'm not letting somebody say that to me. So I called. Back when they had the waiver period, after the deadline on the 31st, you could then make trades in August. But the players either had to clear waivers or you'd claim the player on waivers, and then you can make a deal with the team, but you'd be the only one who can make a deal with the team. I claimed 400 players on waivers during the month of August, because I looked at it and thought, all right, well, I need relievers, and I need an extra outfielder. So do the Atlanta Braves. And so I was like, I'm not going to let players try to clear waivers so that the team can trade them to anybody. I want them to only trade them to me, because I'm going to block them going to Atlanta. And so I claimed 400 players, because when you get the claim, nobody else can trade for them. And I was behind the Braves in the standings, but what I knew was, if I didn't claim somebody and he got through waivers and then the Braves got him and he satisfied a role for them that could have satisfied the role for me, people say, well, why did you not claim them? So I claimed everybody. And to much to this displeasure of general managers, but I wasn't going to be the one who got called out. I remember Harold Baines got traded to Texas once, and they had claimed him on waivers, and they made a deal. And I'm like, everybody was shocked. I'm like, well, I'm not ever going to be shocked like that. If I have interest in somebody, I'm claiming them, because I don't want to get caught where somebody else gets them. But the rules changed. We don't have to do that anymore. But so I did everything out of fear. So I called people every day just to check in.
I like that. Yeah, why not? Exactly. That's the job. You better pick up the phone and call people.
Right, and it's my chance to compete like that. This is what I felt like at the trade deadline, where I can't catch and throw a pitch and make a play defensively, but this was my playing field. And this is where I had a chance to really compete. And so I wanted to do my part. And I tell you, there's no better feeling than when you make a deal and you walk down to the clubhouse to go tell the manager and the coaches and the players of the deal that got done. And they're like the players are looking at you like, thank you for that. That is so awesome. We think it's a great move for us. And that is such a rewarding feeling for a general manager, because that's the only way you really get a chance to compete during the course of the year.
Yeah, this is it, isn't it? I mean, if you're Ross Atkins, if you're any of these competing GMs, it's always funny when they show them on like the telecast. You're like, why aren't you on your phone, Ross?
Yeah.
Why are you watching the game? Like, go call somebody. Yeah. And then he'll look at his phone. You're like, that's got to be from the Rockies, or that's from the Padres or the D-backs or something.
Right.
Because this is it. Like, you wake up on August 1st and you put your feet up, more or less. I mean, this is when you're going to make an impact on what your team's going to be.
Right, and it's your shot. It's your shot to do it for your team and for your fans. And so I always looked at it that way. And Brian Cashman did too. We used to talk about all the time that the draft would just be new meat to trade to get major league players. Like the prospects were just, fresh meat to trade to get the major league players to come help our major league club. Well,
and we've talked about that, like, we mentioned earlier, upsetting the apple cart and specifically Barger. But, how ruthless you kind of have to be if you're a GM, because I'm sure you got to contemplate that kind of stuff with the Lauers and with the Lou Perfidos and the Wagners and, these guys who have really factored in, and in the clubhouse, they clearly have a presence and they're all a part of the rallying cry, yet, they may not help you win. Like the guy in the other team might help you win. And I'm guessing the veterans who have been around the block, like a guy like George Springer, he'd probably be aware of that. Much as he loves Player X and been fun to have you here for a few months. If you can give him somebody that's going to help him win a World Series, he's probably fine with seeing that guy walk out the door. It's ruthless, but that's the nature of the business.
Yeah, remember when the Brewers a couple years ago traded Josh Hader at the deadline, and they got back Taylor Rogers, and they were in it. They were, making a run to the playoffs, and the clubhouse went nuts. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And that was a complete misread of – I understood what they were trying to do. They knew they couldn't keep Hader. They couldn't pay him. They wanted to trade him, and they wanted to bring back somebody else who could close in his place. But he was the best closer in baseball that you just traded for a guy who's, a second-tier closer. And sure, I understand that for the long run this year and next year and the following year, it might have made sense, but it completely wiped out your chance of making the playoffs that year because you gave away the best closer in the game. And I think that those kind of moves can unravel a clubhouse.
Yep, for sure. Well, absolutely. Like if it's a sign that you're not in, that would be scary. And the Jays are simply not going to do that. Clearly, they're going to push their chips in some capacity. But we'll find out in less than a week. Have a great weekend. Thank you, Steve.
You got it, guys. Anytime.
Steve Phillips, our TSN baseball insider, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Drive the built-in Canada fuel-efficient, fun-to-drive Toyota RAV4. Gas or hybrid models available. Visit mapletoyota.com. Yeah, Steve's been through it.
Working the phones.
Got to work the phones. Like, it is funny that you have that expectation if you're watching. Like, why isn't this GM on a Zoom call? Why isn't he calling his scouts? Why isn't he calling people? Like, you can't literally do that 24/7.
Well, it sounds like Steve pretty much did.
But I guess Steve kind of did. And what I'm always curious about is, like, GMs sleeping around the trade deadline.
I don't think they do.
And do you have a fear of, if you fall asleep, do you miss something? Does someone call you and say, hey, listen, you got an hour to answer this, and it's 3 a.m. If you're asleep, you're in trouble. Like, at a minimum, you got to have your ringer on blast.
Yes.
Right?
No doubt.
And I think there'd have to be a rule within the fraternity that you got to call. You can't send an email where maybe you'd sleep through the ding. Like if you have an emergency, like you got to give me an answer on this, it's mandatory you pick up the phone and call.
100%.
You can't send a text at 3 a.m. Text I can sleep through. A ringer, I'm getting up.
Oh, it's funny that just having that conversation the other day about how the younger generation doesn't like phone calls in general.
Right.
Like they're not really phone.
Shoot me a text. Yeah, they'll flush a call and text you. Yeah. What's up?
And I wonder if that's going to change in baseball. Like Steve's generation of GMs, they're on the phone all the time. I wonder if the younger GMs are like, let's just text. I'll WhatsApp you. I'll Snapchat you.
I guess you're right. Like if that's the way society works.
Yeah.
Like the guy, the kid who's 15 right now, that's going to be a GM in 30 years, 20 years. Maybe just phone calls aren't going to be a part of it. Or whoever is willing to make phone calls will actually get things done. Is there a huge advantage of the guy who's willing to call all the time? Although there's a thin line where you start pushing it over the top and you become a nuisance to people. Like, Phillips is calling again. I can't do it. I just can't answer this call.
You kind of want to be a nuisance, right? Like you want the
if you feel like there's
pays, right?
It does, as long as it's not just due diligence. Like if you're just calling people hey, what's up? What are you hearing? They might be like, you got to stop calling me. Please stop. Like I can't just continuously do this. But
although I find you talk to a lot of sports executives, and I don't know many sports executives who don't like a what's up call. Like they're always wondering what the hell's going on that they don't know about.
Yeah.
You're always wondering, am I missing something here?
Phone calls, you're right. Like there's a certain, and it is, I guess it's a generational thing. Well, it is, and it's really when you think of like the history of mankind. Like telephones weren't around hundreds of years ago. What the hell were they doing back then? I don't know. But you're right; it's kind of transitioning. But you see that in business. Like Trump is famous for that. He just sits in bed and makes phone calls.
Yeah.
Well, he's just calling people. Hey, what are you hearing? What's going on? Guys in the White House calling people.
You know what? The amount of information you can get in a text is one thing. You get a very straightforward amount of information. Phone calls, you pick up nuances, you pick up hesitations, you pick up how's he like? What's he talking? Is he distracted? Is he into this call? Is he
being serious? Is he playing me?
Is he playing?
That's probably the best way to figure out if you get being played.
Right.
Like a text, the guy will say, "Yeah, what do you want for him?" Or "What? Here, let me get back to you." If you call the guy and he's really dancing on you, then you can probably pick up that you're being had.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can pick up on that the same way.
Or he's using you to kind of get a better deal with somebody else. Right?
Absolutely. Or just simply not that interested in actually trading the guy.
Yeah.
Like doesn't sound convincing. It's just kind of wasting people's time.
You hear that a lot from executives, right?
Absolutely.
Like people pull out of deals because they don't trust the other person or they don't trust the information they're getting back on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, this doesn't smell right.
Right.
And that's off a phone call. That's not off of
can't get that via text.
Straight text.
No, you got to pick up the phone and talk about that. Dallas Braden in just over half an hour. Farhan Lalji in about an hour. Luke Wilson's out in Saskatchewan again. He's out in Regina. Yes, he is. Got the CFL on TSN. We'll look ahead to that.
Civic happening.
He's coming around on the town, I think. He wasn't overly complimentary the last time he was in town, but I think everything's going to be all good this time for Luke. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. Fun and Friday brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. Enjoy $15 lunch at BP where you get an entree, a side, and a drink, and you'll get it all in 20 minutes or less. A fast lunch doesn't have to be fast food. See you for a $15 fast lunch at your local Boston Pizza. Brian Hayes and Dave Feschuk in here. Jays Tigers tonight. Yankees making moves. Yankees Phillies at Yankee Stadium starting tonight. Like if they lose 2 out of 3 or get swept, the calls for Aaron Boone down there are going to be, you'll be able to hear them up here, because I don't get the impression any Yankee fan is a fan of Aaron Boone. They might be okay with Aaron Boone, and they obviously, he had a pretty massive hit in 03 for them, but I don't think that counts anymore.
No.
I don't think Aaron Boone, the player and the big hit, really matters anymore.
It doesn't get brought up anymore.
You got Aaron Judge in his prime having an unbelievable season, and they have the fundamentals of a single A team.
That's what it is. Going back to that infamous 5th inning in the World Series where they booted it around and got beat. And that does seem to be like, I've been listening to a lot of New York sports radio, speaking of hearing it up here, because it's massively entertaining when the Yankees struggle, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that seems to be the thing, is like, I don't know if it's true or not, like that a manager should be responsible for the fundamental soundness of his ball club on the defensive side of the ball, but people seem to think it's true.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's not necessarily that they're losing, it's the way they're losing, because it's just so sloppy. Like it's just,
right. And I think it looks bad on the manager. You're right. These are professionals. We always have that conversation in every sport. Well, if they start slow, is that on the coach? Is it on the players? And then you realize we're talking about guys who are 30 years old and been in the league for 10 years. They should probably know better than to start on time or not be prepared. But it's a bad look for the manager. Yeah. When you're losing, and you're losing in a sloppy manner, Boone's going to take heat for that. And now you get the Phillies in town, who are a good team, really good team. And it's not going to get any easier for them. They did acquire Ryan McMahon today, third baseman, who's plus defender, and they've needed that help on the left side of the infield. So I don't think he'll be available for them tonight, but he certainly will be at some point throughout the weekend. But yeah, tracking the Yankees, like the Sox have really fallen off. I guess like the concession workers down at Fenway have gone on strike.
Yeah, I saw that.
First time in 113 years.
That, eh?
Like, how is this going to work? So that's a bit of a concern as well. It's not only that the team is in trouble, because they've really, really had a poor second half here, or beginning of the second half post All-Star break. And now they may not even be able to host games if they're not people that can work in the stadium.
That's going to be a problem.
That's a bit of a problem, I would think. But yeah, Jays Tigers tonight. You just roll it over if you're the Blue Jays. It's every night there's someone new that sticks out that is giving you a performance or a big-time moment that makes it really fun to watch them play right now.
Oh, it's beyond fun.
Yeah.
Like it's amazing to me, Hayes, when you think about the way people felt about this team last season and the way they felt about this manager group last season. And it was like an unlikable team, right? It was just like, it was hard to really embrace them because they didn't do the things they're doing this year. They didn't have any real enthusiasm. It was kind of a blah year where just nothing went right, and they never really picked up any traction. And there was just such a bad feeling about this ball club. And we're talking about it. Like, I can't think of a situation in Toronto sports recent history where the sentiment has flipped so quickly about essentially the same group of players plus the Who Jays, as they're calling them. The
depth
Jays,
players.
The depth players that have kind of come up out of nowhere. But it's we got to do this exercise of figuring out a team that has made you kind of change your opinion about the direction of a franchise so quickly.
Yeah, and I think the microcosm of that is George Springer. Like, Springer has just been phenomenal all year. Like, he's hit for power all season. He's got an OPS up around 850. He's hitting now second in the lineup. Like, this was a career leadoff hitter. And when he came here, that was obviously how it was going to start. And the expectation is it was possibly going to be the way it was going to end. Center fielder. Never plays center field anymore. Doesn't hit leadoff. At some point this season, or at points this season, and certainly last year, he's hitting 7th, 8th. They were basically just hiding him in the lineup. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really where it starts. You get a guy like Springer, who is well into his 30s, a veteran guy, has won, clearly has a lot of cachet in the clubhouse. when he is performing and he's playing and he's showing the exuberance that he's playing with, that's what I think has just filtered down. I think Alejandro Kirk getting back to the performances that he's at and the statistical numbers that he's at, really, really significant. Because you can't hide a catcher. You can't hide your number one catcher. You can't. And you can't hide a guy like Springer who's getting paid more than anyone not named Vladdy, right? Like you need guys like that to show up and then allow everything else to filter down. And I think that's really what's happened is, Kirk's an all-star. Springer's was real close to one. It's been great.
Should have been one.
It probably should have been one. That's allowed, Bichette and Vladdy to just kind of come to life, and it's not all about them. And but you're right. I mean, I'll say this also about the front office. Now, they're very busy right now, but it's not like Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro are calling up people to do interviews right now either. Like, they're not trying to get out in front of this and say, hey, this was us. Because they didn't run from when they were awful. They were generally available. They did a lot of interviews, and they'd show up, and they'd check their boxes. We got to talk after a certain amount of games or after a certain, time in the season, trade deadline, whatever it is. And I appreciate that those two in particular, Atkins and Shapiro, took so much heat, more so than any of the players, certainly more than the manager. Like, Schneider took some of it, but not a lot of it. Like, it was Atkins and Shapiro. Like, that's really what it was. From the month, from October 1st up until, I would say, about June 15th this year, it was 90% of the vitriol and the anger was directed at those two guys. And now it's completely flipped, and I'm not suggesting that everyone has completely turned and said these guys are the greatest and build statues and they should be the executive tandem for the next decade. I don't think that is the case, and nor should it be the case. But it would be easy for Atkins and Shapiro to come out and do a dance right now.
Yeah.
Because you actually have uber positivity. You have nothing but positive vibes right now. And they're not doing it yet, right? They're not out in front of it yet.
And I think that's smart. Because
absolutely. That's actually a sign of a veteran executive, which is what they are.
Yeah.
Like, Shapiro's been in baseball for 40 years.
Exactly.
Like, you have to be smart about this and let your players and let your manager, let them take the limelight.
They've been
Stay out of it.
And they've been in the city long enough to know the market, to know they've been here most of a decade. I mean, they know how they're perceived. And they also know, look, it's going great right now, but if it doesn't lead to playoff success, it's not really going to change the overall tone of how you feel about their tenure. Let's be honest. Like, if they just flame out in the playoffs,
right?
No matter how good they are going into the playoffs, they could win the American League in the regular season, have the best record, number one seed, get the bye. If it doesn't go well from there, none of this is really going to matter in the grand scheme of things.
No one remembers a great July. They remember a great October. That's what you remember.
Right.
Right. Like, even the 15 and 16 teams, what you really remember is them getting hot in September and then getting to the ALCS.
Yes.
Right. That's what you remember. You remember the bat flip in the ALDS. No one can reference what happened on July 28th that year.
It's all a blur.
I don't remember. Who knows? Yeah, who knows? I don't remember a specific game.
No, you got there. This is going to get them there. That's the beauty of this. Like, this is going to get to the playoffs.
Yes.
No matter how bad it goes from here on out. And there's no reason to believe it's not going to go well, because it's just.
Yeah, maybe they keep getting better.
Yeah.
Maybe you feel even better about this team in 2 months. Ideally.
Hopefully you will, because you're going to have, the bullpen arm that we're talking about. You're going to have the.
Well, and that's what's going to be, I think, very interesting in this hypothetical world where, again, everything's positive. Let's say it remains that way for 2 months. Based on the history of this team, the fact that they haven't won a playoff game since 16, can you picture a scenario where they are legitimately expected to be in the World Series? Like on September 30th, and I'm not even talking about in Toronto, where I think, again, you're talking fans who are like, yeah, let's do it. Objectively throughout baseball, do you think the general baseball community will look at the Jays and say, I think they're going to go to the World Series?
I think it's plausible.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, you look at the other horses in the race. Like, we just had Steve Phillips on the line. The Tigers are paper Tigers right now. They've lost 10 of 11. They've fallen off completely. Steve doesn't believe in him. He's a Detroit guy. He watches that team closely. Yankees are, they get desperate needs. I mean, they've been decimated by injury on the pitching side.
Yep.
Yeah, you bring in a defense first, third baseman in Ryan McMahon, but that doesn't address all the problems there in terms of your abysmal defense that people are mocking you for. I mean, like,
Houston's going to be
good,
there, and Houston's been great for a decade.
but they don't scare you.
I don't think they certainly don't scare you like they did 5, 6, 7 years ago. But they are Houston, and they have the track record, and they've
And for that reason, maybe they'd be the team that people would lean on and say maybe they're the favorites. Obviously, depending on who wins the most games and who comes out with the best regular season record, but I think it's plausible it could be the Blue Jays.
Yeah, it is. Like, it's plausible that they finish with 97, 98 wins, top team in the American League, and they add in the next 5, 6 days, and you're sitting there saying, actually, that's what's expected now. Which, again, getting back to the reputation of Shapiro and Atkins, obviously they would love that because that means you're in a great spot, but it also moves the goalpost where just a win doesn't help you.
One win
doesn't help you.
Playoff win.
You're not getting credit. And guess what? Then you don't get the wild card either. Like, you don't even get a chance to win that. So you could say, well, at least we won the wild card. Like, you're going right to the ALDS. And if you fall flat there, then everything again becomes largely irrelevant in terms of where the regular season played out.
You're right. And it's a bit like the Leafs because there's so much water under the bridge and so much failure under the bridge.
That's right.
In the Shapiro-Atkins era that, winning the series against Tampa was nice, but it came back to earth in a thud when you lost in a kind of embarrassing fashion to the Panthers, right? So you got to deliver more. That's
it. Like, the Leafs just won their division. First time in 25 years. It was a really fun season. Does anyone sit there and say, I'll never forget that game against, Vegas back in December? No one remembers that.
Atlantic champs.
Yeah.
Raise the banner.
What do they remember? Game 5, Game 7. That's what you're going to remember forever. Yeah. That's what is going to define this last season for the Maple Leafs. Game 5, Game 7, and the end of Marner and Shanahan.
Exactly.
That's what will be remembered. And, for the Jays, it's likely going to be the same thing. Now, to their credit, they're going to put themselves in a position to spin it the other way. Make the playoffs, win games, go on a run, and the bar is not as high here as it is with the Dodgers, with the Yankees.
Not even
you get
close.
to the ALCS, you match everything else we've seen for the past 30 years. All right, Dallas Braden coming up. Farhan Lalji will join us as well. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.
Now, back to Overdrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
All right, Dallas Braden in about 15 minutes. Jays Tigers in Detroit tonight. Yankees making moves. Yankees Phillies tonight. There's a lot going on in baseball. NFL camps are opening up. I was reading a story today that the NFL's cracking down on players and staff who were reselling Super Bowl tickets at above face value.
I saw that.
Because I guess every player in the league can get access to 2 Super Bowl tickets that they have to buy. They can buy 2, which that seems excessive. Like there's thousands of players in the league. Now I'm sure 80, 90% are like, I'm not interested. Why would I buy tickets? If you're not in the game. But
there's a reason to buy them.
Maybe there was a reason to buy them.
You can sell them.
That's probably what got tipped off, right? They're like, man, there's a lot of players. The 53rd guy on the roster in Tennessee wants 2, and he just paid for them.
And apparently, a lot of guys were selling them to like a one bundler that was reselling them kind of as packages,
right?
And of course, driving up the price.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
You were looking on the secondary market for that game in New Orleans. I happened to be there as a member of the media, and it was a really high secondary market.
Yeah. And it always is. It's always going to be.
But some cities more than others. Like that's a real tourist destination city. And people go to New Orleans, man, for a lot of different fun reasons.
They like New Orleans.
People love New Orleans.
People seem to like New Orleans.
Eagles fans traveled, man. You couldn't.
Eagles fans famously travel.
They travel in droves, man.
Yeah. Like I was over in London 6 years ago, I think it was. And the Eagles were over there playing the Jags, and there were Eagles fans all over London. And I didn't see anyone with a Jaguars hat, shirt, nothing.
I'd say it was like my experience going up and down the Bourbon Street there and hearing the go birds everywhere you went. Probably was, in my anecdotal observation, 4 Eagles fans for every 1 Chiefs fan.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Now, Chiefs fans, their argument might have been, we were there last year.
Super Bowl fatigue.
We went the year before. Can't go every single year.
That's right.
That's what Patriots fans would always say. Well, Of course, they're going to show up. What do you want at us? We go every single year. Philly fans, they definitely travel. All right, final hour coming up. Farhan Lalji will join us. Dallas Braden coming up. Jays Tigers tonight. We'll get to our best bets as well. Dear Hazy B, Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.
It's Mail It In Friday.
Yeah, hi, it's Bill Lumberg again. Yeah, it isn't a half day or anything like that.
This is OverDrive
It's not that I'm lazy. It's that I just don't care.
with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog on TSN 1050.
Final hour for the week. OverDrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Brian Hayes, Dave Festruck of the Toronto Star, Jays Tigers tonight. We hope. Possibly some bad weather coming through Detroit, so no guarantees they end up playing tonight, but we'll see what comes of it. Be very disappointing if they didn't play. The only thing that can stop them right now is a rain out.
You're right.
What it seems like.
Saw this thing in Fenway. They're going to have the concession workers striking. Concessions will not be readily available.
They're just not available for the series.
Well, I think they're going to open some, but of course there's people saying don't patronize them because you're kind of betraying the concession workers.
Right. Like you're crossing a picket line.
Yeah, you're essentially crossing the picket line. But apparently they're allowing fans to bring in outside food.
What is that going to look like?
That's what I'm wondering.
Like that, I love that idea because some guy's going to take it way too far and bring in a slow cooker. Like he's going to try to get something past security. Like what? Like you guys said, I can bring whatever I want. I got meatballs going here.
I'm all for people that are trying to save money. Like I kind of admire it to some degree. But I was at the movies the other day, speaking of outside food, and I'm sitting there with my wife and we're watching a movie and we're enjoying the evening until I turn to my wife and I go, "What is that smell?"
Oh no.
And she goes, "I think it's tuna."
Someone brought a sandwich in.
Tuna.
That's outrageous.
And then I hear it clanking. It wasn't even a sandwich. Listen to this.
You're kidding
I look
me.
behind me, and the woman behind me is using a fork to pick out the last flakes of a can of tuna. Clink, clink, clink.
That's savage behavior.
Could you believe that?
I'm sorry. That is completely unacceptable in society. Like, it's one thing. Again, you bring in your own food. Go ahead. You sneak in a chocolate bar or bag of chips or something. I don't care. Tuna is so offensive to everybody else. Like, it's so offensive to everybody else.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's something that just we can't allow in society.
There's got to be a lot.
Like, there's got to be, like, that's one, like, what are you possibly thinking? Go ahead. Like, everyone's brought something in. Everyone sneaks something in, wherever you're going. The movies, you're going to Wonderland. I'll sneak this in. I got that or whatever. The kids need this or that or the other. Go ahead. But a tin of tuna that you're popping,
I couldn't believe it,
and mashing at a movie theater where there's no escape.
That's the thing.
It's completely unacceptable behavior.
It is pungent.
That's wild, man, because that is one of the more pungent smells you're ever going to find.
And I'm not a huge tuna fan either, so that was I was probably
I'm not
more
a
sensitive.
Huge fan either.
I was probably more. Anyway, it got really ugly because she not only was she kind of eating the tuna, she was also she had this big. She was eating other things. I couldn't quite make out what else. She had a whole meal.
She had a whole
going.
charcuterie.
She had
back
it all
there.
kind of just set out, like on the empty seat beside her. She just had it all set out.
What a scene!
And then she was kind of stretching back and like knocking my seat. And I was like, I'm not like a really sensitive guy, I don't think.
Yeah.
But it was just like the whole thing was just bothering me.
Worthy of a look back.
I was looking
like,
back.
Both. The kick in the seat and the tuna behavior, that's means for removal, if you ask me.
Anyway, long story short, the movie wasn't that great. We ended up leaving.
Oh, it's awful. That's the thing. If you get a garbage movie, too, it's almost mandatory you have to leave.
We were out of there.
That's really disappointing.
And I was like, but do you go tell on her? I don't know. It felt like, but it felt like
that's
there's
a weird thing.
There's a line that was crossed there that if we all start doing
like we're living in
like
a society here.
Yeah. If everybody starts to, but I wonder what Fenway will be.
Now at Fenway, it's open air, so again, very different, right? Like open air, you got to be reasonable, but you want to fire up some tuna tonight, I guess, go ahead. It's open air. I don't think it's going to be nearly as disturbing for everybody else.
I wouldn't have a problem with that.
No, it's open air. Go ahead. But someone is going to take it way too far tonight. And what I am curious about, like, because I don't think anyone's ever going to want to be in that situation where you got to bring your own. That's part of going to a game.
Yeah.
Right? Is you grab something down there. Yes, it's insanely expensive, of course, but you just understand that that's the agreement. That's the way it goes. They're going to job you, but you're there, and it's hopefully pretty good food, and it's just a part of the whole experience.
Yeah.
But I do wonder if this opens a door for, and again, the stadiums, the owners are never going to allow it because they're making so much money on what you have to buy there, clearly. So they're never going to allow you to bring stuff in. It's never going to happen because that's where they make a lot of their own money.
That ain't happening.
But that's what I'm saying. That's where I was going with this. Like, imagine if it was like, all right, food, but if you want to bring your own beer, you want to bring a bottle of wine with you, like that's BYOB brings it to a completely different level.
That would change things.
That will change things. And are they indicating that that's available?
No, I believe that is not
like the taps will be open tonight.
There will be beer.
Yeah. Like the Fenway group will have people down in suits pouring beers tonight. Yeah. They're not letting you bring in your own booze.
They're going to have like all the interns from ticketing pouring beers, right? Like everybody that works there, I think, is going to be crossing the picket line and chipping in, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's tough, man.
But
yeah, first time in 113 years.
Think about that.
Like, I obviously, there's something going on with this Fenway group. Like, I don't know all the details, and I don't know what's going on with the negotiation, but, like, when you consider what happened with the Red Sox in 2004 in particular, when they stormed back down 2003, they win the ALCS, they go to the World Series. I think they beat the Cardinals that year. And then they win in 2007. They won in, was it 2011 they won again? Mm-hmm. And then was it 15 they won? I think they've won 4 times in the last 20 years. I think in 15, wasn't that Farrell?
Yes.
I think it was. Or it wouldn't have been 15 because the Jays were in the playoffs in 15. Was it 14?
Was it 14? Yeah, they all blurred.
Anyway, it was something like that.
Range.
But I believe they've won 4. I want to say 4 times. I want to say 04, 07, 11, 14 or something like that. I believe. Or maybe 17, 18 because Betts was on the team the one time they won. So they won it in like 17 or 18. But, the idea that they were back as like the best team in baseball and, remember the tickets, they had the most sellouts in the league and all that kind of stuff. And now they've got a completely different reputation of, the Fenway group, obviously Mookie Betts, that trade hangs over the organization. Now Devers hasn't been great with the Giants. I don't know what Devers is going to turn into. He's not Mookie Betts. It's not the equivalent. But now you got this scenario where, like, you're middle of the season and people are striking on you at Fenway. It's just, it feels kind of like Mickey Mouse a little bit.
It does.
Where this is the Red Sox we're talking about.
That's the thing. Like, you think about Boston sports, like the Celtics are selling off their players, complaining about how they didn't make any money in their championship run. And, that they sold the franchise. The franchise just changed hands because the Grossbeck primary ownership family was apparently not happy with the business model in the NBA as part of the reasons why they sold out. Mm-hmm. And so the Celtics aren't the mighty Celtics. The Red Sox, you're right, kind of seem like a nickel and dime operation who didn't want to pay Mookie Betts and are paying for it, ever since. And kind of strange.
Yeah, the Bruins, they wouldn't agree to a deal with Marchand. Like, the reporting is that, Marchand brokered basically a meeting.
That's a good point.
With Sweeney and Neely and said, can we meet in the middle here? Like, I don't want to go. And they're like, no, we're trading you. Goes down to Florida, wins a cup, and stays there on a 6-year deal. And I don't know what the Bruins are going to be. Like, they're possibly a team in transition. They do have the tenets of a good team, or like the skeleton of what you'd want to build with. I do think their goalie will be much better next year. They got Charlie McAvoy, who's a true number 1 defenseman. I think Pasternak's one of the 10 or 12 best players in the game. Mm-hmm. So you do have that going for you. But what else are you going to do? What else? How are you going to surround those guys?
Exactly.
Swayman and McAvoy and Pasternak. And then now New England, like the Patriots, have been one of the worst teams in the league the last 3 years. So they got Drake May, and they're hoping, and he was okay when he got in last year. It wasn't great, but a high pick, 3rd overall. They got Vrabel there now. Okay, he won Super Bowls with you. Pretty good coach. Was pretty successful in Tennessee. I think they're going to be better. I think their defense will be pretty good this year. But you're right. I mean, now sports is cyclical, and it was long overdue that Boston got smacked with some reality.
Yeah, it's nice to see.
Yeah, like over the past 25 years, no city has even been close to the success that they've had with all 4 of those professional teams.
It was a sickening run.
Yeah, it was a sickening run, and yet they seemingly have all kind of hit the dirt, so to speak. Now, we'll see what happens with the Celtics, when Tatum returns and gets healthy. And they just won last year. Yeah. So, or 2 years ago now, I guess. But, so it's not like the Celtics have been a disaster for a long time.
No, but it's weird just the way, they've kind of, punted. I mean, I understand your best player,
Tatum's
tears his
done.
Achilles.
Yeah.
And you're also in the middle of this new era of the NBA CBA, where it's essentially a hard cap, and you get punitively punished if you're trying to, exceed, get into the second apron territory and pay the luxury tax. And if you're not competitive, you got to get out of that second apron, or you're just kind of wasting money, which nobody likes to do. But yeah, it just doesn't feel like. The one thing about all those franchises at their height was that they were, I think the Celtics were, Patriots definitely were, the Patriots way.
Mm-hmm.
Red Sox, to your point, a decade ago, they were all kind of the gold standard.
Yeah, and Bruins for
Bruins
sure
have been at times.
Yes,
in the Chara,
Bergeron, Marchand
Krejci era.
Absolutely,
era.
That was the understanding. Like you take a discount, team first, you're in the best shape. Everyone said that about the Bruins. Like players that went through there, like I've never seen anything like this. Like the gym, the workout routines, how in shape and professional these guys are, and that's what sets the tone.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's again a lot of people gloating naturally because it's been such a great run. Watching Boston kind of fall off here a little bit, and again, I know people in Boston or people up here that might be Bruins or Patriots fans or whatever saying, well, what about Toronto? And I hear
we're not talking about Toronto.
Yeah, exactly. Like I got you. And we've been talking a lot about the Jays and how they've completely reversed their fortunes and the way that we look at them. 6 months ago, if you were to rank the teams in terms of likelihood of success, the Leafs would be at the top of that list. As much as it is difficult to ever believe that they'll ever overcome this curse that they've had for 60 years, they were deserving of that because you knew they were going to make the playoffs every single year.
Yeah.
And you couldn't guarantee that with the Jays. You couldn't guarantee that with the Raptors. So I think 6 months ago it would have gone Leafs, probably still Blue Jays, then Raptors. Now clearly, I get it, we're in the eye of the storm. There's nothing the Leafs can do to change it because it's July and they don't play again for 3 months. But the Blue Jays are at the top of the list.
Oh, yeah.
Like if you were to poll a Toronto sports fan, who do you think is the most likely team to win a championship in the next 3 years? It's crazy, but based on what we're seeing right now, it's got to be the Blue Jays.
No doubt.
Like it has to be the Blue Jays.
I mean,
and I think it would be the Leafs 2 and Raptors 3.
I think you're right. But I mean, not unlike the Leafs. I mean, the Blue Jays, as magical as it is right now.
I'm not putting money on it. I'm just saying hypothetically, if we got to rank them, it's the Blue Jays right now at number one.
It does kind of feel like, it feels a bit like Leafland a few years ago before they'd won a playoff series in the Shanaplan era, where it's like, okay, get us one postseason victory in the Shapiro-Atkins era, okay?
Right.
Like
get over the hump first.
Start with one win.
Yes.
Okay, because they haven't got one.
And you're, again, in the eye of the storm of this euphoric kind of run that they're on right now. Like, this is not reality. They're beating everybody.
Yeah.
They're the best team in the league by a mile right now. Like, that's eventually going to come back to reality a little bit. You're going to lose some games, and but yeah, you're right. It is interesting how the goalposts are moving here pretty rapidly for a team with Springer, with Guerrero, with Bichette, with Kirk, with Schneider, have not won a playoff game.
No.
Have not won a playoff game. And yet if you're ranking the teams in Toronto, it probably says more about the other teams. They have to give you the most optimism for success right now.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Which doesn't say so much about.
Do you think the Leafs are closer to the Jays or to the Raptors?
I mean, look, there's a lot of unanswered questions in the post-Shanahan, post-Marner era of this team, right? Like, we're going to have to see what this team is and what, Brad Treliving's cobbled together idea of how to move on from Mitch Marner is going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to know, right? In theory, you could see it working a little better in the playoffs because you got a different mix, just as simple as a different mix, right? In practice, we all know in the NHL, it's hard to replace talent, especially in the regular season.
That's the big thing, is the regular season. Like in the playoffs and in big games, Marner's reputation is what it is.
Yeah.
Right? Like he simply didn't help the team.
Not enough.
Like at no point did he help the team in 9 years. In the biggest games, like biggest moment, need something here from you. Never came.
I mean, it says so. Maybe the biggest moment of his clutch career was that we set up that goal in Game 6 against Florida to force Game 7, right?
Yeah.
Set up Matthews' goal.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, neutral zone, stop the transition, and yeah.
Yeah, like that. And that's kind of sad that's sort of one of the high points of his postseason career because we know where it led in Game 7.
Right.
another no-show.
Yeah. And again, I'm not even sure how many people would remember who assisted on that goal.
You're right.
You know, and even Matthews, I don't know how much credit he gets because of the way he played in Game 7 too.
Yeah.
But you're right. He batted a puck down and moved, It was a good play.
Win.
It was a really good play. It was a beautiful play. It was. It was a great play. It was a great play, and it was a great play by Matthews. But, yeah, I think the Leafs are closer to the Jays. I think they're actually very, very close in terms of, what you can actually expect from them moving forward. Like, I'm not nearly as, sky is falling with the Leafs as other people are. Because, yes, Marner is a big loss. I mean, there's no disputing that. He's a great player. And during the regular season in particular, a huge loss because he was healthy every night. He played every night, played a ton of minutes every night, played in every scenario every night. And the individuals that they have, quote-unquote, replaced him with, none of them are even close to him.
No.
And, that's another difficult thing for Tree Living moving forward here. If you're selling Michelli and Waugh and Joshua and Pizzetta, like, obviously that's not going to fly. But what you should be, I think, selling if you're Tree Living is Matthews is still here, Nylander's still here, Tavares is here, and he's really cheap now, relatively speaking. You still have the exact same 6 defensemen who are pretty good in the playoffs. You have your 2 tandem goalies. You still have a cup-winning Berube behind a bench. They won the division last year.
Yeah.
One player, I don't believe, will drop them to an 85-point team. Like, I still think they're going to be a very competitive team, a good team. I think the mix... Again, if you can learn something or take something from the Blue Jays here, maybe this is just a perfect storm. But if I had told you Santander's not going to play, Varshall's not playing, Jimenez isn't playing, Scherzer's barely going to play, you'd say they're in big trouble.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, the replacements, the depth guys, the Joshuas, the Waws, the maybe Easton Cowans, those are your Low Perfidos, your Bargers, your Wagners, your Clements. And look where they are.
You got to hope you can.
That's what you're hoping for, and I get that that's a glass half full. I understand that that's a glass half full, and maybe it goes the opposite way. But the idea, like I've seen some analysis of like the Leafs are just nowhere close, and they're like awful now. I'm like, what are you talking about?
And yeah, you
like
can't
yes,
take
Marner's
that view.
gone, but what are you talking about?
You can't take that view. The only way that would be true, I think, is if Matthews shows up injured again. Like if this injury is just something that. That's whatever it was,
huge.
or what,
Yes.
Like if it took, we were told it was going to take a few. We were told at the end of the season that a few months of rest during the offseason would get him back to zero, back to full health. Take him at his word on that. We don't know what the injury is. He doesn't want to share it with us. Mm-hmm. But again, I still go back to if a few months rest was going to get him fully healthy. Why the hell didn't he take those few months rest during the regular season? I still don't understand that. There's no logic for all the money this team puts into research and development and leadership and sports science. Riddle me that one, Hayes. That makes zero sense.
Well, yeah, that makes zero sense. Unless that's, again, Matthews trying to convince people that that's what's going to happen, and maybe
which is not good to hear.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the case. That's what I'm worried about if I'm a Leaf fan. It's like, if he would have been healthy after a few months and he could have been assured of that, why wouldn't he have sat out in the lead up to the playoffs?
Yeah.
So, in other words, he didn't sit out. So what does that tell you? Does that tell you that what he's got maybe isn't going to get fully better?
And if it doesn't, then all bets are off, clearly. Like if Matthews is if he can no longer be relied upon as a top 10 player in the game, then it changes the equilibrium of the whole team. Because then you've lost Marner and you've also lost a part of Matthews. He could still be a very good player, very effective player, but 35 goals and 70 games, 65 games every year, and a guy that's just nowhere near as lethal, that's not going to fly. Like and you can't replace that because he's going to be playing for you and he's getting paid what he's getting paid. So yeah, that it goes without saying. You need him back at 100%.
But that's the only scenario I can see where that doomsaying they're nowhere near it anymore would be true.
Yes, and that would be a reality even if Marner re-signed. Like you're not going anywhere if Matthews doesn't get back to being the best player he can be. Mm-hmm. Like he's too integral. He takes up too much time, space on the ice, cap space. He's the captain. He's the leader. Everything. Like if he's not who he was 2 years ago, if that never returns, then that will be probably as significant as Marner literally leaving. Mm-hmm. Like if he's no longer the guy that he always was. then yeah, that's going to take a significant toll on this team. But glass half full, if he returns to where he was 2 years ago, then I think they're going to be able to move on from Marner a lot quicker than people think, a lot easier than people think. All right, best bets coming up a little bit later in the hour. Mail it in Friday, brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. Enjoy $15 lunch at BP where you get an entree, a side, and a drink, and you'll get it all in 20 minutes or less. So fast lunch doesn't have to be fast food. See you for a $15 fast lunch at your local Boston Pizza. All right, we got the CFL on TSN. New week starting last night. We've got the Riders in action against the Elks tonight. The Argos are in action tomorrow. Farhan Lalji will join us on that. Also, he's been doing some NFL camp tours, so we'll get into some NFL as well with Farhan a little bit later this hour. And Jays Tigers tonight. We're looking ahead to that. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. so the Argos are back in action tomorrow night playing Winnipeg, and Nick Arbuckle is going to get the start, and Ryan Dinwiddie said, quote, "The Argos need to create chaos to turn the season around. They need that plus. And at some point, Chad Kelly to play."
Yeah, how about create some wins?
Yeah, creating some wins would be ideal. But they had it last week, man. They had that game in Montreal, and it obviously slipped on them. But now you got Winnipeg, and we know what they're capable of doing. It's not going to get any easier. And I don't know when Kelly's going to return. Like, it's been this song and dance kind of all year. You knew he was going to miss time, but they really haven't been that forthright with what's going to happen with him. And
yeah, Dinwiddie was on the morning show this morning with Carlo and AK, and I think he was really kind of cagey about, will he be available next week? Well, we're not sure. We hope.
Yeah,
we hope.
That's what they're hoping for. And he's been down in Buffalo and rehabbing. Maybe Farhan will know. Farhan's been breaking a lot of news, clearly, and CFL on TSN tonight. Saskatchewan at home against the Elks, and also been doing the NFL tours. Here he is, Farhan Lalji, joining us here on Overdrive. How you doing, Farhan?
Gentlemen, I'm doing great. Soon to hit an airport to get back home after 4 camps in 5 days. So
I love it.
Good. It's been a good week.
It should be, absolutely. Football's in the air. We got the CFL, we got the NFL right around the corner, and we're just referencing, obviously, what the head coach of the Argos have suggested, that the Argos need to, quote-unquote, create chaos to turn their season around. Do you even know what that means, and do you think they're capable of doing that?
Yeah, it was a great quote, because I think they're kind of doing it themselves right now with this whole Chad Kelly thing, don't you? Like,
yeah.
This sounds awfully chaotic to me, given the way this week has progressed, because I know from the early stages of the week when he did practice, they expected him to practice the last 2 days, and so I don't know that there's been a setback. I don't know that there's anything else, but I think there's a lot of I don't know, because this team expected Chad Kelly to miss maybe 3 or 4 weeks at the start of the season. It's gone longer than they expected, and now I think it's getting a little bit strange. I think they're having a difficult time explaining where they're at as well.
Well, what's the hope of a turnaround here, Farhan? Because, we were giving them some grace period here because they kind of blew up their defense and had to bring in a whole new D-line, and obviously playing without Chad Kelly was a factor here, or has been a major factor. But in your mind, knowing what you know about this league and how long you've watched it, like, what is the plausible deadline for them to actually turn around the season?
Well, look, they always say the season starts after Labor Day, right? And I don't know how true that necessarily is. You look at what Winnipeg did last year and how quickly they turned it around. And if Chad Kelly comes back, I do think they have the ability to turn things around. And I don't think they're all of a sudden going to ascend to first place in the East like Winnipeg did last year in the West, but they can get themselves back into a playoff conversation. I mean, right now, the 6th playoff spot in the league belongs to BC, who are sitting at 3-4. So they're only 2 wins ahead of Toronto. So it's not like it's impossible at that point to get back into that conversation. And as Montreal showed us a couple of years ago, right, it's the team that's playing the best at the end of the year, not the best that's playing throughout the year. So Kelly makes them a different team, and I think that's why they're hanging on as long as they possibly can here. Like, Ryan Dinwiddie knows, as much as Nick Arbuckle is the greatest teammate going, and as much as he was able to pull a rabbit out of a hat and win a Grey Cup last year as a backup, he knows that there's some limitations there to what they can expect based on his skill set. Chad Kelly makes them a completely different team. And I think one of the other things that we're finding it hard is that a year ago, Toronto got killed in free agency. They maybe didn't lose as many D linemen, but they lost a lot of players, a lot of starting players, and they turned it around quickly and won a Grey Cup. And I think a lot of people expected that to happen again this year, and they're not close to it on either side of the ball. But getting Kelly back will give that entire room confidence.
Absolutely. And again, that won't happen tomorrow when Winnipeg's in town. And, the Blue Bombers, you mentioned there was, what they did in the second half last year and what they've been doing for years in the West. Where do you stand on the rankings, between them, the Stampeders, the Rough Riders? Like, do you believe Winnipeg's going to be the best team in the West when all is said and done? Where do you stand on kind of breaking those teams down?
Yeah, I still think it's Saskatchewan. I said that at the beginning of the year, and I'm going to go with that. And I just think they've got more weapons. And right now, if you're Winnipeg, you lost Kenny Lawler in the offseason. You lost Ontario Wilson to the NFL. And now you've lost Dalton Schoen again for a 6-week cycle. And their offense isn't the same. And you're also losing Stanley Bryant for the second week in a row along that offensive line. So, and in the last couple of games, we've seen the defense get exposed a little bit, right? They've looked so good in their 2 games against BC and in some other games, but all of a sudden Calgary really took it to them in back-to-back games. So I still think it's Saskatchewan. Do I think Winnipeg beats Toronto? I do, because I do think that with Winnipeg, you've still got a level of predictability on offense, and they tend to not beat themselves. And they've still got Brady Oliveira and Zach Collaros, but I do think that they are thinning out offensively, whereas I think Saskatchewan, you get a guy like Dante Myers, who all of a sudden is ascending into a big-time player, and they've got other players coming back off injuries very shortly in Sean Bain, and and their offensive line is very good, right? So I just believe that Saskatchewan's the best team. I think despite what Calgary did. I think Calgary's for real, but I think they'll probably finish 2, and I think Winnipeg will wind up finishing 3 in the West, right? I think that's kind of how I look at it. Saskatchewan has the most ceiling.
So I saw your training camp tour. Farhan took you to Santa Clara, where the 49ers are hoping to turn around last year's dismal 6-win season after losing in the Super Bowl the year before. What's the mood in 49ers camp, and how do you see their prospects for improving things in 49er land?
Well, my buddy James Duthie is going to cry when he hears this, but I think they're going to be average. And the reason I say that is that they're going to potentially have to start as many as 8 new players on the defensive side of the ball, right? Like you've got a player in Nick Bosa who's elite. You've got Fred Warner who's elite. And then after that, there's a lot of change. 3/4 of the secondary could be changing. What's the rest of the defensive line going to look like? Can they find an opposite side pass rusher to go along with Bosa? And they're also trying to replace Dre Greenlaw at linebacker. So I think there's a lot of concerns there, or questions at least, for Robert Saleh as he takes over. And then on the other side of the ball, they're going to be down some receivers at the start of the year, right? So they lose Deebo Samuel to Washington. You've got Brandon Ayuk, who's not going to start the season, right? He's hurt. He's still recovering from the ACL. You've got Demarcus Robinson, who they added, but he's got a 3-game suspension coming out of the year. So Jennings is probably going to be their featured guy, and Pearsall should be healthy enough, by the late stages of camp. But they're thinner there, right? So a lot becomes expected of a guy like Brock Purdy, because when you change all of that on defense, why'd you change it? You changed it because your quarterback's finally going to hit the book salary-wise, right? And then the other piece is going to be Christian McCaffrey, because he looked great in practice. 2 days ago when I was there, he looked outstanding. Yesterday when I was there, he was outstanding. But this guy's played 7 or fewer games in 3 of his 8 seasons. So can he stay healthy? Because when he's healthy, it's an entirely different offense and really an entirely different team. They're 23-8 when he's been healthy, 8-12 when he hasn't. So, he had that balance. If he can keep that for an entire year, then I think anything's possible for San Francisco. But I think there's a lot of questions around it.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I'm bracing for Arizona to take another step. I think the Rams are going to be pretty good.
Agreed.
They're in a tough division, and all that turnover. And now Purdy's got paid. Like, that's going to be interesting for him. Like, how Brock Purdy. Now, the way we look at him, it's no longer last pick of the draft and not making any money, and it's all about everyone else. Now, when you get paid what he got paid, and you're dealing with all of the injuries and all the turnover, the easiest way, the best way to keep your team afloat is your quarterback plays like a superstar. Do you think he's capable of doing that, Brock Purdy, considering everything you just said?
I don't. I don't. I think he's a player that needs special players around him, and then he can bring out the best in him. But last year, I think a lot of people expected that when they had some adversity, big deal. It really is, right? You're not going to be the same offense when he only plays 4 games. But I expected more from Brock Purdy, honestly, because, again, he's a guy that's not going to necessarily beat you with his legs and play that style of Lamar Jackson game, but he can, he's such a smart player and has the ability to more than manage the game, right? Like, I don't want to call him a game manager. I think he can do more than that, but he's got to take another step. He didn't show it last year, and when all the receivers get healthy and into the lineup, I'm curious to see what that looks like, because a lot's expected, and it should be, right? I mean, if you're Dak Prescott, you're now $60 million a year, but you're the Dallas Cowboy quarterback's got that every time, right? The rules change a little bit for a guy like Brock Purdy, but now the gloves come off for him, and he's expected to be that guy. And I think Kyle Shanahan's really optimistic. He thinks he doesn't have to change his game. Purdy himself doesn't think he's got to change his game, but I think there's going to be some times where you got to take some chances. You've got to fit the ball in some tighter windows, and you've got to make guys believe that as long as you're there, they've got a chance, as opposed to right now, it's if Christian McCaffrey's there, they've got a chance.
With Farhan Lalji, and you also went by Cowboys camp, and they're another team. I don't know what to expect out of the Dallas Cowboys this year. A lot of injuries to Dak last year. He didn't play great prior to the injury. They weren't a very good team. They got the Eagles in the division. Washington was a really good story last year. If that carries over, I think a lot of people think the Giants have improved in the offseason. Do you think it's possible Dallas is the worst team in the NFC East?
I think they're still better than the Giants, but they're a ways away from Washington and Philadelphia. And you talk about a team that has question marks in various levels of their team, like defensively. There's a lot of questions there, right? Trevon Diggs isn't going to start the season. He's banged up, still recovering from an ACL. Micah Parsons is going to be great, right? I mean, I do think he's going to get signed, and I don't think he's going to hold out, right? Like, I know people are kind of raising their eyebrows a little bit at this back tightness that's kept him out of it. I think when he's healthy, he'll practice. But offensively, they added George Pickens, and that's it, right? Like, that's it. So he allows them to balance out the receiving core and can do really well with CeeDee Lamb, and that's going to be a good thing for Dak Prescott. But who's going to run the football in big doses for them? Who's going to protect? There's a lot of questions around that group as well. Ferguson's still a solid tight end, but they're thin in the rest of the receiving areas, right? Like, they don't have an obvious number 3. But look, their number 1 and their number 2 might be the best they've ever had under Dak Prescott. So that's a positive to build on. But I just think there's a lot of holes throughout that team, and expectations league-wide seem to be low for the Cowboys, and maybe that's the best position for them where they can do a few more things.
So take us through the rest of your tour, Farhan. What stood out? What were the highlights of your other travels in NFL training camps?
Yeah, I went to the Chargers day one, and it was fun to watch them at the University of San Diego, a team that's a lot of the same questions. There's kind of a theme throughout, right? Justin Herbert, his contract now affects the rest of that roster. Can Jim Harbaugh get more out of him? What's that receiving core going to look like after Ladd McConkey? Right? Can Quentin Johnson step up? I don't know, right? Defensively, they're solid, right? But you lose Watt, and that changes what they look like defensively as well. And then today, I went to the Raiders. I'm just in Vegas, getting ready to go back soon. But it was good to catch up with Pete Carroll. We had a few minutes before he started his regular availability, because obviously I've had a chance to speak to him during his time in Seattle and my time covering them. And he's brought a lot of energy to that team. And you could tell just the way they practice and the way they're all bouncing around trying to keep up to the 73-year-old guy. But, when I look at that team, I see Ashton Genty is going to be a stud. I think Brock Bowers is going to enter the upper echelon of tight ends in this league. They got no receivers to throw the football to, right? And defensively, they just cut loose Christian Wilkins. So, now a lot of attention can easily be paid to Max Crosby because there's so many other holes on that team on the defensive side of the ball. So a lot of similar teams that think they've got the quarterback situation figured out, but it's come at a cost. The Raiders, it hasn't really affected their cap. They've got cap space, but that's one of the youngest rosters in the league. The 49ers are one of the oldest rosters in the league. So I think Pete's going to put a really good culture in place, but I wonder if he's around at the age of 75 in 2 years to reap the benefits of all of that.
Yeah, and tough division, right? With the Chiefs, the Broncos were great last year.
Absolutely.
And obviously the Chargers year 2 with Harbaugh. So, what a division in terms of legendary coaches.
Yeah.
Andy Reid, Sean Payton, Jim Harbaugh, and Pete Carroll. When was the last time we saw that?
Yeah, no, it's an impressive group. There's no doubt, and and all of them are getting paid a lot of money, and all of them have big expectations. Like, if you look at all of them outside of Andy Reid, those coaches are like, it feels like they're the faces of their franchise. There was a bigger group of people trying to get Jim Harbaugh's autograph at the end of that practice than there were around Justin Herbert.
Wow.
Right? Like, it's bizarre, isn't it? So these guys are being counted on as coaches. You're getting the bag. Let's see what you can do with it.
Absolutely. Well, we're getting closer to that. We got the CFL on TSN tonight and throughout the weekend, and the NFL right around the corner. Safe travels. Thank you for doing this, Farhan.
Hey, whenever I get to talk to you guys about football, my heart is full.
Yes, of course it is. I'm sure it is. Us too.
Take care,
Thank
guys.
you, buddy. There's Farhan Lalji joining us here of TSN and doing the whole tour up and down California. because the Cowboys start their camp out there in California. And, that division, the AFC West.
That's a great point about the coaching
crazy
legacies in that division.
The 4 of them. Like, obviously, Reed is at the top. I think I'd say Peyton's 2, just because he won in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Like in New Orleans, you remember it was so rinky-dink for so long, and then Katrina hit, and him and Breeze paired up. I'd probably go Peyton 2. I guess you got to go Carroll 3 because he won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And Harbaugh would be 4th. And Harbaugh's, I believe, the youngest of the 4. And his brothers won the Super Bowl, but he's won a national championship. He's obviously been, kind of riddled with some controversy at the collegiate level in Michigan. That's basically why he's in the NFL right now. But, it'll be interesting to see what happens, with all these teams.
But it's funny how Farhan says, like, Harbaugh is, like, the biggest personality, in that camp where people just gravitate to him because he's a funny guy. You want to listen to his press conferences. He's got a lot to say. Carroll's kind of the same way. Like, I was listening to a bunch of Pete Carroll audio the other day just from his training camp stuff, and he's talking about we're going to win a bunch of games, and I can't imagine it going any other way. And it's like he's trying to do that whole
Gotta believe first,
speaking into existence, and build the chemistry and the culture around the team. But he's 73 years old, man.
That's what's amazing is that he's still
Mr.
acting
Energy.
The way he's acting, and exactly Mr. Energy, and on his toes, and go, and let's get after it. Credit him for that because it's incredible. But it can turn quickly in the NFL. Like Denver, like Peyton's first year, they were abysmal. They were brutal. Remember they went down to Miami in week 2 or 3 and gave up 70. They lost like 70 to 20.
Embarrassing.
And then last year, their defense was phenomenal. And they've got arguably the best corner in the game, if not the best, one of them in Surtain. And their front 7 is considered like a top 5 front 7 in football. So they're going to get after the quarterback. And now they got a quarterback on their own that they kind of like.
Yeah.
So Denver's very intriguing to me. And the Chargers, Herbert is a very good quarterback. I don't think he's like elite. And I think he's got to prove it in clutch games. And he's certainly got to win in the playoffs. But, Harbaugh, they invested a lot in their offensive line, the run game there. I think the Chargers are going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
So
intriguing division.
Yeah, it is. It really is. All right, Best Bets powered by FanDuel coming up. We'll sneak in a Dear Hazy beer, too, as well. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. right, Best Bets powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. I'm on the Jays in the over again tonight. Like, Jays are a slight underdog. You got to pay a little bit of juice to bet on them tonight. But the way that they're playing, the way the Tigers are playing, equally has to factor into this. And the bats have been so lively. I'm taking the over.
Yeah.
Taking the Jays in the over tonight.
Seems like
There's
a
your play.
no-brainer.
No-brainer. Best Bets powered by FanDuel. Assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Please play responsibly, 19+, physically located in Ontario. So I haven't seen the latest weather report coming out of Detroit, but I think they're going to play.
They're going to play, but it looks like there's a threat of some showers.
Okay.
50. Well, I'm reading different radar interpretations. We're talking about there's probably some rain coming. It may not be enough to stop the game.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that might affect the total. That scares me a little bit.
Oops.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. But let's presume good weather here. Okay, let's stay dry and let's keep the bats alive tonight. And like we've been saying somewhat jokingly, like the only thing that seemingly can stop the Jays would be the weather. And you got Barrios on the mound tonight. Lucas is going to play center field and lead off tonight. And what has been standard practice now for a while, Springer 2, Guerrero 3, Bichette 4, Barger 5, Kirk 6. Lou Perfido in left field, Ernie Clement playing second, Will Wagner playing third tonight. So even guys like Wagner, Clement, they're moving around all over the place. Barger's played infield. He's played outfield.
Remember that? Yeah, it's amazing how it doesn't seem to affect anybody.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like there's just this openness to whatever Schneider thinks is going to work for us tonight.
Vladdy was DHing last night.
Yeah.
Springer will DH tonight. Okay. Go for it.
The other good thing about this stretch where they're, getting a couple of blowout wins, they're not taxing the bullpen.
Well, we talked about that yesterday, right? The importance for Lauer to give them some innings.
Yeah.
And he did that last night. Like Chad
Bassett
Green
did the night before.
Just like Bassett did the night before. So you've got everyone available to you tonight.
Yeah.
You got Barrios on the mound, who's more than capable of going deep. Now, if you get a rain delay and it shuts them down, and then you got to go to your bullpen, that's different. But only Chad Green pitched last night. And Green, he hasn't been pitching a lot recently anyway, so he would be available again if need be. But you got everyone available tonight. You got Hoffman, you got Rodriguez, you got Little, you got anyone you need. So that is significant because, again, they don't have a day off again, I don't think, until next Thursday.
Yeah.
Because actually maybe it's beyond that because I think they have 4 in Baltimore, right? I think it's 4 in Detroit, 4 in Baltimore, unless they're making up for a rain delay from earlier in the year. They might be because they got rained out in Baltimore the 3rd or 4th series of the year. But, everyone's available tonight. All right, Mail It In Friday. Brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. Enjoy $15 lunch at BP where you get an entree, a side, and a drink, and you'll get it all in 20 minutes or less. A fast lunch doesn't have to be fast food. See you for a $15 fast lunch at your local Boston Pizza. A lot of people writing in for Dear Hazy B saying, what's the play in terms of hitting the road here? Because this is a part of it, right? Jays tickets can be tough to get. Jays tickets are basically sold out. It's going to be tough to get down there. You can't get in. You can't find it. There's a lot of tickets for that stadium. But where do you line up a road trip? You're probably a little bit too late for Detroit. Baltimore, early in the week, I wouldn't suggest. I think you wait until they get to New York again, until they go through, another team that's kind of in the hunt. You can get out to L.A. We talked about that earlier. They're in L.A. in a couple of weeks playing the Dodgers.
Yeah.
Can't beat that, man. If you're looking for a road trip, if you have an unlimited payroll in front of you, unlimited time, green light special, hall pass to go anywhere you want, that Dodgers series, I got my eyes on that one.
Dude, Chavez Ravine. Have you been there?
Never been. My number one bucket list stadium in baseball.
That should be number one.
Done Fenway multiple times, Yankee Stadium, Wrigley multiple times. I've been to, it was called Oracle Park back when I was there in San Fran. I don't know what it's called anymore.
Great park, too.
Unbelievable.
San Fran Park's beautiful.
It was AT&T, actually, I think, when I was there.
They've changed it a bunch of times.
Yeah, it might be Oracle now.
Might be.
But, Dodger Stadium's number one.
It's such a beautiful place, man.
Yeah.
It really is. It just feels like baseball. It's like I can't think of a nicer place to watch a sporting event
than Dodger Stadium.
Dodger Stadium.
Really?
I really can't.
The drive up, everything about it.
Everything about it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some downsides to it. Obviously, it's L.A. There's traffic.
Yeah.
Good luck getting there.
Sure. But once you're there.
But once you're
it's
there.
LA and you know the weather's going to be great.
Weather's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a great one. Like, you can get in if you want to go down to Tigers game tonight, like this weekend.
Yeah, tonight probably a little
not
bit
tonight,
late.
but I mean, like, you got
Saturday night in
games.
Detroit? Yeah, you can get tickets tomorrow, man. They were nowhere close to sold out last night.
The tickets are relatively cheap down there.
And as the game went on, more and more people were leaving.
Yeah.
Thursday night in Detroit, and the Jays were up 11-1. See you later.
Like, you're gonna get tickets a lot cheaper down there than you're gonna get.
Detroit's always the
right
play.
Now.
Detroit's always the play.
And it's a nice stadium.
Cheaper tickets.
If the weather's good, it's a really nice,
beautiful stadium. Beautiful stadium.
Yeah,
I went to the old Tiger Stadium.
Oh, same here.
Back when I was a kid, you would have been there, growing up in St. Catharines.
So gritty.
The grittiest. I have flashbacks of that. I'll never forget driving in around there. We stopped at a gas station for something. I don't remember why we did. Like, as a team, we're down there as a baseball. I was actually playing with my cousin's team. And we got into this gas station around Tiger Stadium. I had never seen anything like this before. And then driving up, and I remember hooligans, like some of the parents had to step in and be like, hey, you guys, because there were just guys, we were in the bleachers of Tiger Stadium, and there were guys so polluted, it was crazy. And what a park that was. Cecil Fielder was playing.
Like,
beautiful thing.
That's the thing. Like, I love those dumpy parks. Like, the only one that's kind of like that now is Wrigley.
Wrigley's very dumpy.
A little bit dumpy.
Yeah, it's dumpy. It's got a dumpy vibe. Fenway does to an extent, but they've upgraded it.
It's a lot cleaner, though.
Yeah.
Fenway's a lot cleaner.
It's a lot cleaner.
They paint it, and you can't see the gritty side of it.
Right. And Wrigley does. That's why I've spoken with locals in Chicago. They're like, Wrigley's amazing if you're from out of town and you come once. But if you're a season ticket holder and you're going 40 times a year, you're like, this place it stinks.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, I get the aura and the history. And again, I love Wrigley. Wrigley's my favorite place.
Yeah.
Like, more so than Fenway, Yankee Stadium. I've been to PNC in Pittsburgh, which is beautiful.
Nice.
San Fran was amazing. My wife and I went there. We had a blast. It was so much fun. But Wrigley is as fun as it gets. But it's a catch and release. You go down there for a game. You're in Chicago. You're up in the north side. Wrigleyville is amazing.
Wrigleyville's better than Wrigley.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Wrigleyville is as cool as you're ever going to find around a sporting event. It's so unique. It's so incredible. You take the train up if you're staying on Michigan Avenue. It's amazing.
And Camden Yards is good, too. Going to see him in Baltimore, not a bad move. Because it's not that far a drive.
All right.
Want to drive?
All right. Oh, I'm catching heat. Someone just wrote in and said, stop brushing up Baltimore. I'm going down. It's amazing. I love it. Yeah. Harbor City in the summer. All right.
I can't. Apologies. It's cool. It's a beautiful ballpark.
My bad.
And also, people have given up on the Orioles. There's probably some pretty good seats to be
definitely, you'll get cheap seats down there for sure. And you're like an hour away from D.C.
Yeah.
D.C.'s a great city. All right, Dave. Great seeing you, man. Thanks for doing this. Dave Festruck of the Toronto Star. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out. We appreciate it, and everyone for tuning in today. TV, radio, podcast, web, and, of course, up on YouTube Live on TSN's YouTube channel. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy your weekends. We're back Monday at 4 p.m. We'll chat then.